Okay, I call the Paris Union High School District School Board meeting to order at 3:16 p.m. Next item is an information item, invitation to address the Board of Trustees on closed session items only. We don't have no takers at this time. 4.1 is an action item to adjourn to closed session. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson, Trustee Stafford. Please vote. I don't
Your roll call had to be
have it clear. Okay, that's true.
Yeah, but Dr.
It's on the other,
put him as present, so that's why.
yeah. Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, action item 4.1 has been,
That kind of power.
has been approved. 4 in favor, 4 in favor, yeah. At 3:17 p.m. He's right here. Okay, good evening. This Board of Trustees of the Paris Union High School District reconvenes to the regular board meeting at 5:31 p.m. At this time, if you can join me on the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you can please stay standing, we have a trustee staff.
Moment. Hello? Test, test. Moment of silence for those affected by our natural disasters, our fires in California, floods. You know, we've all lived all over the country. Just really best. Law enforcement, fire department, volunteers. Just stay safe.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our next item is an information item, 7.1. Do we need a recess, Mr. Bennett? No. No. Okay. So 7.1 is not applicable. We are going to skip this item. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay, that's fine, not a problem. Okay, 7.1, I'm, at this time, at 5:33, we are going to have a recess of the regular board meeting of the Paris Union High School District to conduct a meeting of the California Military Institute. Okay, the regular board meeting of the Paris Union High School District reconvenes at 5:50 p.m. And the next item, 8.1, is revision, adoption, and auditing of the agenda for today, September 19, 2018. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson, Trustee Garcia. Please vote. Action item 8.1 has been approved 5-0. Oh, I'm sorry. No. We were? No, nada was. I don't know how that happened. Yeah.
Oh, we're still on CMI. This is still CMI.
That's why. Okay. So, yeah, I say, how did that happen? Okay, it's a regular board meeting. Regular board meeting. We are all of you here. Start this meeting. Join the meeting. Now we can join the meeting. Let's try it again. I got scared. Yes, and that's what happened. Yeah, sorry. Okay, we are good. Okay, so I go to 8.1. Yeah, perfect. See, how did that? Okay, perfect. Take meeting to 8.1. Okay, now we are on the 8.1 adoption of the agenda for the regular board meeting of the Paris Union High School District. Uh, it is an action item. Okay, Trustee Ellison and Trustee Garcia, please vote. Okay, the agenda has been approved, 5-0. 9.1, report out of closed session. Mr. Bennett.
Yes, we do have a couple items to report out of closed session. In closed session by a vote of 5-0, the Board of Trustees approved the appointment of Amy Hall as Assistant Principal at Paloma Valley High School with a start date of September 24th, 2018. We've asked him not to come. In closed session by a vote of 5-0, the Board of Trustees approved the release of classified employee number 254160 effective September 19th, 2018. That concludes the report out of closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Item 9.2, district update by the superintendent.
I should have just kept going, right? We've did all the host of back-to-school nights the last month, and it's great to see what's happening out at the schools, how well attended they were, and the teachers doing a great job of sharing with the parents what's going to be happening during the year. Kind of going along those same lines, I think it's been a great start to this school year so far. We're almost 6 weeks in, and it seemed to be smooth, other than 2 days of absence because of fire, but we can't help that. We just moved forward, but it was really smooth start, I feel, and I think things are moving in the right direction that way. I'm looking forward in about a couple weeks to have our professional development days over at Heritage High School, 2 days over there for everybody. Kids will get 2 days off. I'm sure they're upset about that. But the staff get to work together to improve what we're doing with our students on a daily basis. Ed Camp Paris is coming up on October 6th. For those of you staff members that have never been to one, it's a great event to go to, and you kind of drive your own learning there. So it's at Heritage High School on the 6th. You see Joe or somebody to find out how to get signed up for it. But it's wonderful. You get a breakfast, you get a lunch, and you get to learn in between. So it's a fun day. This coming Saturday, September 22nd, 10 a.m., we're having the grand opening of Paris High School's new additions that we've put in over there, the new student union, the new ag facility, and the new STEM building. So we're excited about that. If you have nothing to do on Saturday morning, come on out and get to see the new stuff that's happened over there. The cabinet and PSCA worked together on SRC training for our new people that have never been through it before. That's our school relationship council. We have a PRC that's district-wide, and it's a way of solving problems at the lowest level possible, and we work together on that. So we're excited about that. Another kind of a spin-off of that is we created a classified relationship council now, and we have the same type of program going on with our classified staff to try to, if there's problems coming up, we can work together at the lowest level to help everybody get through that. The next 2 days, we're going to be sending teams of teachers and administrators from every school to the Equity Conference out in Palm Springs, learning how to work together to best address our students' needs. So it'll be, I think that's gonna be a valuable tool for our staff. I think I had one other thing. Oh, next Wednesday, Paris City Council Forum, for the city council candidates here in town. It's gonna be held over at the, Lake Paris Pavilion. I'll be the moderator, so you can come out and heckle me if you want to, but if you live here in town and you wanna know who's gonna be running the city, it'd be great to be there and hear what's going on. And that concludes my report, Dr. Rouse, for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Item 9.3, student representatives to the Board of Trustees. Trustee Stafford.
From Heritage High School, we have student representatives Andrea Gonzalez and Angelica Valdivia. Valdivia? Did I say that right?
That's fine.
Good evening, President Arauz, members of the board, Mr. Burnett, and members of the cabinet. My name is Angelica Valdivia. And I'm Andrea Gonzalez. Here are some of the things going on at Heritage High School. There you go. Before school started, Link Crew invited all freshmen to come out for the freshman orientation. Almost 600 students showed up. These students experienced an opening assembly and activities, small group activities where they met their Link Crew leaders, and a campus tour and a closing message. We only got to do Camp Legacy for one day due to the fire closure, but the sessions were a great way to start of the school year and get students excited about Heritage High School. We had an alumni panel, grade-specific expectations assembly, goal setting, and academic reviews. Our Nutritional Services Department at Heritage received a certificate of recognition for being an outstanding food facility. We appreciate all they do to make sure we have a well-taken care facility. We had a great turnout for back-to-school night. Lots of visitors, many of them parents of freshman students, and they learned a lot about teachers, programs, and opportunities to get involved on campus. Our Legacy March kicked off our fall sports season. It is one of our favorite traditions. All fall varsity sports, A's, B, band, cheer, and dance participated. The College and Career Center is up and running and busy. Our counselor, Sherry Adame, is busy on social media and video announcements, promoting lots of opportunities for students to think about life after high school. The project led by the biomed class had a chance to do some critical thinking through investigative work as they worked on their mock crime scene this month. The Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising came and did a presentation for our students. We had parents come and learn how to access Parent Portal and other technology needs. We had over 30 groups participate in the 2-day of Club Rush. We have awesome opportunities on campus for students to get involved. We appreciate all the advisors and coaches for the work they do to provide opportunities for us. Link Crew hosted their first event of the year at the football game on August 24th. We had 376 freshmen and 83 leaders come to this event. That is more than 100 freshmen than last year. This past week was our Homecoming Spirit Week. Pep rally, halftime show, and homecoming dance. Students enjoyed performances by cheer and dance at the rally and halftime show. We also sashed and presented our royal family members. This year's homecoming dance was our best attended yet with just under 1,000 students. We danced the night away in between eating churros and tacos and drinking aguas frescas, which were provided by our PTA. Our classified staff of the month is Christina Duarte. She worked in the counseling office as a senior clerk
clerk and just moved over to the discipline office as one of our secretaries. She's rocking it.
Our teacher of the month is Miss Rachel Markham. She is the English department chair this year and is our yearbook advisor. She is doing such a great job in her leadership.
Here are some upcoming important events. We have a blood drive on September 26th, NHS induction on September 26th, Senior Parent Information Night on September 27th, and the Money Fee Bowl at Heritage October 12th.
And that concludes our last presentation. However, thank you for all your time.
Trustee Twyman.
High school, we have Marisol, Karen, and Kaylee Miller.
Good evening, board members. Again, my name is Marisol Curran. I'm the ASB president.
Good evening, board. My name is Kaylee Millar, and I am a junior class representative of ASB at Paloma.
And this is our September updates.
Every year at Paloma Valley, we have a back-to-school spirit week to start off the new school year. This year was very successful, as we have had more kids than ever go all out with their spirit wear. Our theme was tied in with the idea of summer ending and getting back into school mode. Each day, ASB passed out Spirit Day accessories that represented the current Spirit Day for everyone walking into school.
This year for our back-to-school night, we had the opportunity to show off our new College Career Center flags that represented the most popular and our former students had chosen to attend. Just like every other year, our cheer team, as long as our Wildcat Brigade, performed for all of our parents and students.
There's a senior tradition at Paloma when our ASB senior class hosts a senior sunrise for the seniors' first sunrise of their high school career. It represents new beginnings for their last year and gives them an unforgettable experience with their peers. At this event, we provide them with donuts, water, and music.
Another senior tradition that our seniors in ASB host is a senior breakfast. We successfully set up tables and chairs for our seniors as we provided them a full plate of chicken and waffles. The seniors had a lot of fun and their classmates enjoyed the good food and music.
As the new school year is just getting started, we encourage our students to get involved with more clubs at our school. We host our annual club rush and hope for students to discover the different cultures at Paloma Valley through the many clubs we have on our campus. This is a 2-day event held at our lunches that include all clubs that set up their tables to showcase their club. ASB also provides music entertainment.
Our AP Spanish 4 class did awesome work on doing their projects right outside of their classrooms and gave the campus a magnificent cultural aspect through their murals. Great job, Wildcats, and keep up the good work.
Asian Club hosted an event called ACA, which stands for Asian Culture Awareness. This event was a talent show on August 31st and gave the audience a tour through different Asian cultures.
Our class of 2019 seniors had the opportunity to paint their own parking spots, and this event was a successful turnout. The ASB senior class worked hard on this event, and seniors camped out the day before starting at 6 p.m. Keep in mind, the event started at 5 a.m. the next day. Overall, these paintings put a beautiful touch on our campus, and the seniors are very talented.
Our first home varsity football game was a success, and we played against JW North. The maroon platoon was filled, and many students were hyped for the first home game of the season. During the game, ASB passed out our class of 22 lanyards for our new freshmen to encourage them to come back to our next home game. The score was 47-32, and our Wildcats did amazing as always.
So our upcoming events is that we have two of our amazing AP teachers, Lunchroom and Paulson, hosting our first ever AP Pep Rally this Friday, September 21st. We also have homecoming next week, and ASB is excited to host our first dance of the year. The theme is Arabian Nights and will be held on September 29th. And also, our Pink Out varsity football game will be held on October 5th, and we're excited to play Arlington. And that concludes our September updates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Nelson.
From Paris High School, student representatives Melanie Calderon and Arandita Corona.
Good evening, President Aros and board members, Superintendent Bennett and Cabinet. I am Melanie Calderon along with Erendida Corona, your Paris High School board representatives. Let's begin with acknowledging two amazing individuals for Employees of the Month. Teacher of the Month goes to ceramics teacher Miss Avalos for her dedication in her teaching profession. Classified Employee of the Month is Richard Sweeney. His hard work in the front office helped make for a smooth start to the school year. Kicking off the 2018-2019 school year, we followed the success of Heritage High School's Camp Legacy. Paris launched Panther Camp. Activities were made to involve student body with Paris High School on the first 3 days of school. Despite the Elsinore fire resulting in the closing of school on day 2 and 3, Panther Camp was quickly modified, thus becoming a success. Some highlights included a banda at lunch, teacher t-shirt scavenger hunt, and an alumni guest panel. We would like to give a special thanks to Mrs. Garcia from Heritage ASB for her support in our launching of Panther Camp. Moving forward to sports. Football won their home opener against Cathedral City, an exciting game that went down to the last 15 seconds when Paris held Cathedral at the goal line and stopped them from scoring. Other fun activities were face painting, senior selfie wall celebrating the seniors' last first game, t-shirt throws, band, cheer, JROTC Raiders, and a DJ. Halftime fun was the kickoff to the kickoff, where Principal Santos accepted a kicking challenge from ASB President Ulises. Farthest kick wins, and loser was to wear a pink tutu the following Monday. Principal Santos kicked an amazing kick, beating out Ulises by over 10 yards. And in case you are wondering, Ulises looks good in pink. He can totally pull it off. Taking over, my partner, Erendida.
Hi. Let's continue with our amazing girls volleyball team. They are off to a great start. Currently, they are undefeated in league. Tomorrow, come show your support as we play Orange Vista High School. They too are undefeated. Someone will be going home with a loss tomorrow. Come out and help Our Lady Panthers put those coyotes on a leash. Another successful back-to-school night that was kicked off by the Jamboree, an event that welcomes in our community with clubs, fundraising, and student groups performed such as band and cheer. The alumni banquet, Interact, and ASB attended the Paris High alumni banquet. The alumni helped us out with monetary donations, and we helped out with service and donations. It's a win-win for all. The first senior meeting was a great success. One major highlight of the most spirited senior will win a class ring from Johnston. Paris is using a new PBIS tool called 5-Star Student. It allows a senior class officer and advisor to allow points to seniors for attending events and participating in school. Plus, leadership and Friday Night Live held activities during Suicide Prevention and Awareness Week, including the Mental Health Fair on 9/11, which was extremely successful. Hope to see you guys all this Saturday at our Phase 2 grand opening, where you will get a chance to see my home away from home, aka the ASB room. We are in the middle of preparing for homecoming, so it will be a good chance to see the behind the scenes of the making of a dance. Thank you for your time. We look forward to sharing all the great stuff that will take place at Paris High School this year. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Paris_ASB. Have a great night.
Trustee Garcia.
From Pinacati Middle School, student representatives Delia Martinez, Jehani Green, and Josie Lopez.
Good evening, President Good evening, President Oroz, members of the board, Mr. Bennett, and cabinet members. Happy fall. I am the president, Jayani Green, and with me tonight is
Delilah Martinez, the vice president. Nailin Estrella, the 8th grade representative.
Daniela Navatorres. Spirit Days started in August. Wednesday is College and Career Day. Thursday is Boot Day, and Friday is
Spirit Day. Come visit us and show your Puma spirit.
Student and staff had a great chance to talk about the clubs and activities.
Club Rush Week was great. Club members represented their clubs with great displays. ASB and Web got students moving at our first day lunch activity, playing musical chairs to say tune of Baby Shark.
We really wanted to play Baby Shark for you as we showed the slides, but you have more meeting to run when we are done.
Such style and grace Pumas had for our first Friday activity. Mr. Maciel's drama production class is full and is getting ready for their fall play, the Snow White Variety Show. Students have been divided into cast and crews, and the entire production will be designed, built, and ran by students.
Nearly 50 students have joined the Stagecraft Club, also run by Mr. Macio. Mr. Warner stops by to lend his set building skills to the kids, too. The Stagecraft Club will run fun theoretical events throughout the year. Right now, they are preparing for Pinacati's Harvest Maze.
Getting outside to build relational capacity as a class after a long week of tutorials and binder checks.
All Pumas were involved in the Dare to Dream assembly. It was a very positive and informative.
Pinacati parents rocked the gym and campus last night at open house. Parents came and participated in the Title I meeting. They filled up the entire home side bleachers. Even more families came after the meeting. There's a lot happening at our school this year. We'd like to brag a little more, but we've run out of time. Our closing thought for this spring evening is, turn your cans into cans and your dreams into plans. Thank you for your kind attention and have a great Puma month.
Okay. Excellent job. Okay, and now from Paris Lake High School, the students representatives, Justine Castilleja, Alexandra Romero, Alisa Cota, and Marco Franco.
Good evening, Governing Board and Cabinet members. My name is Justine Castilleja, and I am a student representative of Paris Lake High School ASB. I would like to introduce my fellow ASB member, Eliza Coda. I want to thank the Governing Board members of the Cabinet and Superintendent Bennett for inviting us here to share the events at the lake. In slide 2, back to school night was a great turnout. Many parents showed up with their kids. Mr. Hauser gave a great speech. We gave out snacks, drinks, free nachos, and hot dogs. In slide 3, MSGC Paul Mitchell, an Army recruiter, came to our school to present about their many wonderful opportunities at their school and how we can get jobs we desire. Paul Mitchell and the Army recruiter came to present on Tuesday about their opportunities in cosmetology business and also about their benefits of joining the Army.
Last week we came up with the Spirit Week. which was Monday, PJ Day, Tuesday, Hippie Day, Wednesday, Twin Day, Thursday, Sports Day, Friday, Old School Day, all with some lunchtime activities throughout the week. The second annual mental health fair had all the students in groups going from room to room, listening to different speakers inform them about the importance of mental health while also doing fun activities to go along with them. We also want to thank Superintendent Bennett for coming to the event and support Paris Lake High School.
Thank you for the opportunity to share a few of the events from the lake.
Thank you. Okay, before we continue with item 9.4, we are going to give the opportunity to the students who would like to leave at this time. You are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you would like to go, we know that you have classes tomorrow morning really early. But okay, we are going to continue with our meeting, and the next item, 9.4, and we have the PSEA president, Ms. Vicky Mueller.
Good evening, Dr. Rowe, Board, Mr. Bennett, and Cabinet. Thank you again for allowing me this time to speak. PSCA would like to welcome Misha Labas. If you could stand up, Misha. Misha is our new Director of EMLD LGBTQ. She was elected this last election. And Jason Miller, who's also here, he is a new site rep at Paloma Valley High School. So they're part of my new team. Grant also mentioned one of the things that I had on my list, that PRC, through PRC, PSCA conducted training for SRC for the site reps, and we had a lot of compliments. The Kirk and Vicky show, that's what I was told. But it was very well received, and the people that were there that attended said that they got a lot out of it, so that was good. We have Fall Leadership Conference coming up. We are hoping to send several of our new members to. PSCA held a rally at Pizza Factory, and it was a great success. We had over 100 teachers in attendance, and tonight we also had a taco truck out here. We are also preparing to have the taco truck visiting the sites for luncheons throughout the first semester, and then second semester we might go back to pizza. We're not sure. Just to make sure that the members know that we're there and that we're listening to them. So one of the things I want to bring up also is PSA's concern about talks about unification. We attended the meeting over the summer, and we would really like to rather call it annexation of Paloma and PUHSD's planned high school number 4, and the potential and talk about the potential ramifications to PUHSD if that annexation occurs. And I think we need to really look at that fully to understand what can really happen to Paris Union High School District. There are other people that will be speaking to that, so I'm not going to take as much time up here. But I want you to think about this. PSEA teachers, most teachers, have a class size of 36. If they teach 6 periods a day, they have 216 student contacts a day. That is 1,080 student contacts a week. That is 21,600 student contacts a month. Our teachers work very hard for their salary, very hard. And we're asking that the board acknowledges that our members have an increasingly difficult workload and that they are compensated accordingly as we move into these final negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. Now, CSEA President, Ms. Helen Steinbach.
Good evening, President Dr. Arrell, members of the board, Superintendent Mr. Bennett, and Cabinet. How the time flies. It seems like we just started school and here we are welcoming fall already. Just a couple of items to share this month. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Mr. Bennett for attending our chapter meeting and sharing the exciting news about the soon-to-be-named High School Number 4 and the other construction projects in our district. I am happy to report that following Grant's presentation, my chapter voted to support Bond Measure W and that we are filing paperwork with CSEA's PACE Committee to give some financial support to this endeavor. On other fronts, we are slowly rolling out the new campus supervisor uniforms, and by next month, all sites should be looking sharp. The new program for our custodians has had a few hiccups, but we anticipate through collective efforts that this new program will be running much smoother by next semester, and whatever kinks we have will work their way out. More good news. Having implemented the CRC, the Classified Relationship Council, and all sites having at least their first meeting, I've heard lots of positive comments coming from these sessions. Many topics have been discussed and much has been said about workload issues for our classified personnel. With overcrowding in the schools and additions of teachers and administrators, we need not forget that positions for classified employees should be increased as well. We are gearing up for our first negotiation session this Friday, and I know our members are anxiously awaiting some positive news, especially in the area of salary adjustments, since the cost of living continues to increase and that the property taxes will certainly go up with the passage of the bond. Since AB 1808 was signed into law on June 27th and includes an augmented COLA for the K-12 local control funding formula at 3.7%, we are hopeful that this will translate into a living wage increase for us. At the end of the day, we work well with the district and will continue to build on this great start and foresee more positive reports coming from me in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steinbach. Item 9.6, comments by the Board of Trustees. Trustee Stafford.
I want to thank everybody and say welcome back. So far, it's been a smooth transition, other than the fires. And I hope good luck to Paris High School playing the Coyotes, since I worked there. But definitely good luck, and I hope to see you all at these events.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. We continue with information item 10.1, invitation to address the Board of Trustees on agendized and non-agendized items. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda and non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that the additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. John Briggs.
Awesome, I get to break the ice. Good evening, members of the board, Mr. President, Mr. Bennett, and Executive Cabinet. My name is John Briggs. I'm a social studies teacher at Paloma Valley High School. But more importantly, I am a 11-year resident of the city of Menifee, father of kids that will go to schools in Menifee, I'm here to express my concerns about the potential unification of Menifee high schools with the Menifee Union School District. This is my 5th year with the school district, and I can honestly say that I'm blessed to be part of this district. Although we have our differences, most families do, I truly believe that we work together for the betterment of our students. In my short 5 years here, I've witnessed the relationship between the teachers, staff, and administration improve greatly. And I truly believe that fact is due to your leadership and the leadership of Mr. Bennett. Unlike many school districts, if there's ever an issue that I want to bring up, I know I can do so without fear of retaliation from administration. We have a great forum in our PRCs and our SRCs where teachers and administrators can work together to resolve the issues that arrive on our campuses. I'm provided with all the necessary tools and training to become a great classroom teacher, and I truly believe that we are part of an environment that allows us to empower our students. I'm here today because I do not want that to end. Not only would it be bad for myself and my fellow teachers, it would also be horrible for the high school students in Menifee to not be associated with our district. The topic of unification has come up again, and now that I'm on the other side, I can foresee the potential devastation it would mean for our students. In reality, this is an attempt of an inferior school district to siphon away schools from a higher quality one. And even though Menifee Schools District probably couldn't meet the 9 requirements to unify now, it doesn't mean that they won't be able to do in the future. We'll have to fight this all over again in the future. What we need to do is promote the great things that our district already does for our Menifee High School students. We have to educate the public that this high school district is just as much a Menifee district as it is a Paris district. Many of the residents of Menifee think that this district is controlled by the city of Paris and that we don't care about our students there in Menifee. They think, we know that that's not the truth. We need to make sure that our residents of Menifee understand that too. We need to change their hearts and minds about us. And if we're going to be successful in this endeavor, we might be able to squash the idea of Menifee annexation for a long time. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker, Michael Wilson.
Hello, my name is Michael Wilson, and I've been a teacher at Paloma for 11 years, and I love this district. What's not to love? Over the last 10 years, we've built amazing programs for our students. Our Scholar Plus one-to-one program, community business internships, college partnerships with MSJC through dual enrollment and articulation agreements, but we'll lose all of that with unification. You may say, won't the new Menifee district be able to build their own programs? Sure, but it's taken us 10 years to get to where we're at, and there's no reason to think that they'll be able to do it any faster. And what happens to the generations of students in the interim? We do them a huge disservice. Speaking of disservice, unification will create an atmosphere of segregation by moving Paloma interdistrict transfers back to PUHSD. Do you know who those students are? They're minorities. And that's segregation, and it's wrong. Those minority students, by the way, give Paloma access to all sorts of special state-funded programs. Menifee will lose access to all of that. Less money for schools is never a good thing. Here's the real kicker that people don't understand. After unification, Menifee kids will still be going to PUHSD schools because we will keep heritage. That includes everything east of the 215 from Menifee Lakes northward. That's a huge chunk of Menifee, and those people will still be paying double taxes for both districts after unification. So it's unification for some, but not for all, and that's not fair. What this will do is divide Menifee into good versus bad sides of the tracks, which has been historically bad for both property values and crime rates. I subscribe to various internet groups online which are followed by over 54,000 local residents. I've been on a quest to find out why people keep bringing this subject up, but nobody has any good answers. There's no question that PUHSD is better managed than MUSD, and that's a testament to your leadership, and I thank you for that. So why would anyone want them to take over Paloma and the new high school? That's a managerial downgrade. The fact of the matter is those 54,000 people have a lot of misconceptions and they need to be educated. Once you know what unification is all about, no one in the right mind would be in favor of it, and this matter will die once and for all. When Brexit happened, they polled the population and asked, why did you vote for this? And most people admitted they didn't really know what it was about. That's how our bullet train got passed too, by the way, and it's happening here again. People are taking up an opinion on a subject that they don't understand. This will bankrupt both districts. It nearly bankrupted Val Verde when they unified. Look to history for answers. This is a bad deal for everyone, but most of all our students. If you can tell me a good reason for this, I'd love to hear it and research it, because no one has been able to give me a legitimate reason yet. And when you make a decision this big, you better have some good reasons backing it. You can find out some more information at unificationfacts.com. That address again, unificationfacts.com. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker, Maisha Lebos.
Good evening, Dr. Rowe, members of the cabinet, superintendent, members of the board. I want to speak to unification this evening. I want to thank the board members for your tireless work to support the education of our students. I know that you care for not only the scholarly and academic success of our students, but also the social and emotional well-being of our students. And it is to this that I will speak regarding unification. I'm taking the time today to appeal to your sense of community building for the students you serve. My plea to you tonight is to ask that when you consider unification, you consider that you may be segregating our students. Consider that any decline in the diversity of our schools due to unification will be a huge step backwards for our students' social and emotional development, as well as the development of a culturally rich community working together to make a better life. I'm asking that you vote no on unification and stand up for progress. Celebrate the cultural diversity and richness of our schools in both the city of Menifee and the city of Paris. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Barbara McKenna.
Good evening, Dr. Arrow, the board members, our superintendent, and cabinet. My name is Barbara McKenna, and this is my 24th year with Paris Union High School District. I've seen a change from a district with only one comprehensive high school to attaining 2, then 3, and now contemplating a 4th, along with our various other campuses. And we have certainly grown, and I think that our students are terrific. But PUHSD teachers see more students per day than any other district around. We were granted we earned a large pay increase several years ago, but it really wasn't a pay increase, it was because there was that much more work. We had an average of 35 students a class, and of 7 period days, which are 6 are instructional, that's 210 kids, compared to many of the other districts, which only have 175. So it's not that we have the highest pay around. We are working more than anybody else around. But I think we have terrific teachers who work very hard for their salary. Right now, PSEA is in negotiations in order to get a new contract. There has been 3.7 has been determined by the state to be COLA, and we are asking that that be granted to the teachers who was intended for. The district can't expect teachers' support unless the district supports its teachers. Salaries must be competitive to retain good teachers with the workload that is expected in the Paris Union High School District. I urge the district to give PUHSD teachers the raise that they work for. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Jason Miller.
Thank you for this time to speak, Dr. Rowe and the board and Mr. Bennett and the cabinet. 2 topics I'd like to address to the board: current salary and also unification. The current salary situation is that PSEA and the district are really close to coming to a deal for a contract. PSEA has asked for a reasonable number for COLA for this year, and the state has granted this funding to the district. So it's not really clear to our members why the district is holding up this process. So we ask that the district look to close the deal, and I think they're close. As for unification, unification does not put students first. I have not heard one solid, viable reason why it should happen. This is not unification. Let's call it what it is, annexation. Vicky chose the right word. When I hear unification, I hear something that wants to hurt my family financially. Would any of you want that for your family? When I hear unification, I hear giveaway. Paris giving away a big piece of what has made it great over these last few years. And for what? Nothing. It doesn't help students. It hurts students. Those great educational programs that we offer at our high school, gone. Those great resources that we are able to provide our teachers, gone. The facilities we are able to provide at the different sites, gone. Competitive salaries to attract great teachers to the district, gone. All these things gone. The extra ADA that Menifee would get would fall far short of the heavy debt the new high school and managing Paloma would incur. Annexation does not help students, teachers, or administrators of either district, and not all Menifee students will be in the new district. Many will still be in Paris, and both districts will not be able to support the programs they currently have. Annexation will weaken the financial power of Menifee and Paris. When I was interviewed to come to this district, and I had a lot of different offers, they asked me, why do you want to work at this district? And my answer was simple. I want to find a home. And for the last 16 years, I've found that home. And I feel that unification, annexation is looking to threaten that home at this point. Thank you for your time.
Our next item is 11.1. Is an action item, consent calendar. Approval of the consent calendar items. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson. Trustee Twyman. Please vote. Action item 11.1 has been approved, 5-0. Next item, 12.1, is an information item, security update.
There they are, Judy and John. I'd like to invite them up. They're going to give a brief update to the board. As you know, on your governance calendar, we have various presentations each month, and security has been a topic that we've talked about for a couple of years now. And so Judy Miller, I think, is going to begin, and then you'll have an opportunity to hear from John Hannon, who's our new coordinator of safety and security.
Well, thank you for having us back. Thank you for having us back. President, board, superintendent, board, and cabinet. Okay, so here we are today, and we're just going to do kind of a quick overview. So we have been, we started, it's been about a year and a half, and so we've been working with Will Height and Associates since last June. They've done security assessments, campuses, all the security assessments have been complete, and we're in the process of working through some of those recommendations. Existing policies have been updated, procedures have been reviewed, and now John will be in the process of doing site-specific procedures based on those. We've added 7 days to campus supervisor work year calendar, so we're really happy about that. I'm going to go more into training in a minute. We have the campus supervisor uniforms are in process, and as Helen mentioned, the pants were delivered, and the rest of the top part, they're in the process of being embroidery, so we're really excited about that. And then what did I tell him today? I said, I think you're what did I call you? Now I can't remember, but he's going to steal the show because that's who you're waiting to hear from, right? We finally approved our coordinator of safety and security. The training calendar. So this was what we put together. We made a few changes on it after negotiations, but in July 24th, we were able to sit down with administrators. We had Charlie Wilhite and Scott Madden come in and worked with administrators on district policy that had been updated, procedures, did a lot of kind of team kind of working on what is their perception of campus supervisors, what do you think they do well, what do you think they could work on, and kind of work through that and came up with some expectations. August 1, 2, and 3, I was very happy that we were able to bring in all the campus supervisors, and now we're updated on that 1626 training that's required. And so that was 3 days of lots of different topics, but that was really good, great interaction. And then we brought them back. That was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before school started. Then we brought them back on Monday, August 6th, and did some more. We did part of the 360 defense. That's that non-paying compliant restraints that we've been working on. That's the program we've introduced about, 3 years ago. Did tabletop scenarios. That was really good for them because what Charlie Wilhite did, he kept bringing up a tabletop scenario, and it was all reinforcing the concepts they had learned the previous 3 days, the previous week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday about search and seizure and excessive force, those types of things. And so he'd given them a scenario, he'd say, okay, talk about it, and then he would report out, and he just kept doing it. So it was really good interaction. August 7th was the first day back on their original calendar, although now they have their calendar changed, but we brought them in for half a day. So that morning we did team building exercises. They talked about morale, the new vision for what's going to happen. We're all still anticipating John showing up, but he wasn't quite there yet. So then they were sent back to their sites for the rest of the afternoon so they could participate in any activities and meetings and stuff at their sites. So they were hopefully ready for the start of the school year. What's coming up in October 11th and 12th, you've got I've got one slide that'll tell you some of the topics on that. And then negotiations changed a little bit. So instead of having January, February, and April, they put all those 3 days together. So now we'll have February 19th, 20th, and 21 that will kind of complete that, what they call ski week in February. So they'll have 3 days in a row, and then we'll come back and circle back. Wrong one. There you go. So October, we've got several sessions coming up. We've been working with the Sheriff's Department for drug awareness. That's important. Gang awareness, domestic violence and abuse. This was interesting. One of our SROs kept saying, this is a problem. We keep seeing this more and more within that teen dating relationships and stuff on campus, and I honestly hadn't been aware of that. So we found there's a detective in Temecula, the Temecula station, and she has a grant, and she actually kind of specializes in, sounds terrible, but she specializes in this training. So we're bringing in her to help with the domestic violence abuse awareness, and and a lot of that's geared toward that dating relationship with teens. Human trafficking and sexual crimes against children. We're bringing back 2 deputies this time. In the past, we've had Opal Singleton. She's from San Bernardino. Charles, you've worked with her lots of times. She's amazing, but she wasn't available. So we've got 2 deputies coming in who are on that team. Active shooter response, again, 2 deputies who are going to help us do that. This was a new one we added, medical treatment to survive an active shooter. This is that Stop the Bleed. And so we're looking at some trauma kits. I haven't finished putting those in place, but he's an active firefighter. He's also on something to do with the FBI task force. I'm not exactly sure. He just threw FBI out and it sounds cool and you go, okay, whatever. But he's gonna do a 2-hour Stop the Bleed where they really get into more medical training on how to respond to somebody who has some type of a puncture wound. And then again, we'll bring back 360 defense. Some of the, what we're planning for February, human trafficking, that's another, so this one was different, human trafficking, sexual crimes. And so we're gonna either have some of it in February or October. We're still playing with the schedule. So we have human trafficking, again, scenarios are gonna be really important to continue to reinforce the concepts. 360 defense, team building, crowd control, personal safety techniques. John is coming up with some of his observations. He's going to talk to you about that. I'm not stealing his thunder, but that's still in development. Those 3 days, but that's some of the stuff that we've talked about. So Campus supervisor uniforms. We had a MOU with CSEA that was ratified in July, late July, or, and then they were ordered, and we got the pants. We went through the inventory, had to make a few changes. John has been able to distribute them. He's working with the lead campus supervisors, so they all have pants and shorts. There are a few back-ordered items. We hope those to be in next week. We've already had a few changes or requests to change, so we're working through that. That's going to take a little bit. And then all the shirts, sweatshirts, and jackets, right now there's little Keebler elves that are embroidering over 24 hours at a time. So those are being embroidered as I speak. So that yes. Yes. So we're excited about that, just getting all that in place. But really, I know what you really want to hear from is John. I think I told him he was I don't know, I can't remember. I'm going to think about it as soon as I sit down. But anyway, he's going to talk to you about what he's been doing in his big whole 3 weeks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to name you all. That's happened all night, so we know who you are. Like she said, I've been here about 3 weeks and 2 days, and it's been a kind of a whirlwind. I've been spending a lot of time just absorbing, seeing what's going on. I've visited all the sites. I've met some great educators, some great campus supervisors, and some great deputies, too. I mean, all these folks are working together to make our students safe, and they're working very hard at it. What we've done with the lead supervisors is we want them to do their jobs, what their job descriptions are. So we've empowered them to take a leadership role on the campus. They're going to help streamline the communication between the campus supervisors, the administration. I know, like Paloma, for example, five APs, and each of them are talking to the campus supervisor. So something's getting missed in translation. So we want to streamline that. So the directions are going to be given through one person, and then he's going to disseminate those out to the troops. They're also going to be responsible for the attendance, the extra duty and security assignments. So we have one person again streamlining that and taking care of it. I worked a couple of football games, very interesting. A lot of colorful students, I have to say. I really enjoy the football games. There were some things that we noticed that we wanted to change, so we stopped the campus supervisors from taking tickets and removed them from the gates where they were concentrating on taking the tickets and keeping people from coming in and out, instead of paying attention to security issues that they should be dealing with. So we've pulled that back, so now they're concentrating on security, and other folks are taking care of the tickets. I also noticed that they weren't going out in the parking lots or checking the campuses, so we're going to make some changes there. They're going to roll out, check the parking lots, and keep in mind, you go to these games, you see kids leaving throughout the game, and they're going into the parking lot. Well, they're not going home. They're hanging out in the parking lot, so we want to push those folks home. So we're going to be doing that. I'm also encouraging these guys to carry the right equipment for these night games. You're in a football game, it's loud, you can't hear your radio. Everybody needs to wear earpieces. I was shocked to find out that no one was carrying a flashlight at a night game. I had to remind them it's nighttime, there's no sun, folks. Lights go out, what are you going to do? The answer was, we have lights on our phones. So we have a lot of work. We have a lot of work to do, folks. So we're working on it. How do I change this thing? Oops, that's not the right button. Now I got to start over. Now you got to start over.
Okay, no, they don't.
I'm going to leave this thing alone. Be here all night. All right, so we're concentrating on safety. I'm trying to emphasize their safety first. If they're not concentrating on their safety and each other's safety, they wind up getting in trouble or getting hurt. They're useless to us. Something happens on campus, we can't count on them if they go down first. So we're talking about that. We're concentrating on covering each other, looking out for each other, working closely with the deputies, and just taking care of one another. So we're really concentrating on that. We're also concentrated on providing security services to the campus first. Now, those of you who have been on campuses, you hear the radios, you see what's going on. Campus supervisors are doing a lot, and a lot of it has nothing to do with security. We're trying to bring it home. My idea is you you need to master your job first before you can start delving into other people's work. All right, so we want the best team we have. We want them doing the best job. And then all these things will hit our other goals. It will increase the morale. It will increase the atmosphere of teamwork. And more importantly, increase the ownership of the campus and the district. We really want them to say, hey, this is my school. I'm going to protect it. This is my district. When we say, hey, we need more people at another game, they'll rush to do it. So ownership and morale, that's what we're really working on. Okay?
And the last one, there you go. It's really about the site-specific procedures. Oh, sorry. Oh, you can't hear me? Really? Oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot that part, sorry. So we talk about what's coming up, and so really John's talking about changing the culture, and that's what he's working on. He's developing relationships with campus supervisors, with administrators, and we're looking at that culture change. And then part of that will be continuing to tweak, site-specific procedures. It was on there. He didn't say it, but he's actually already changed it. They're rotating on campus. They're not just standing. They're rotating their areas or zones. So he's made some really significant changes just in the short period. So I'm really proud of that, of him, and for me, because I picked him. No, I'm teasing. We all did, right? Really working with the sites to really develop site-specific procedures that work for the sites that also fall under those district policies and protocols. So that's going to be kind of the goal for the rest of this first semester. We'll see where we're at in January. We have a couple board updates coming up, one in January, one in May. We'll kind of see where we're at in January. But by, for sure, the end of the year, what we're looking for is to put all that stuff together and end up with some really good just documentation also that will help when a substitute shows up. You got a map, you got an area, you got some expectations. I think that'll really help with just changes on campus. And so lots and lots of plans, but I think he's off to a really good start. So thank you. Any questions?
Okay, our next item is an information item, 12.2, Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium and English Language Proficiency Assessments for California LPAC update.
So, President Arau and the board, monthly we come to you to provide updates specifically around student outcomes as well as our LCAP goals. And so today what we wanted to provide was an update in regards to our CAS scores as well as the LPAC scores. And so we have our Director of Learning Support, Charles Tippy. He's going to present that information today.
Good evening, President Arauz, honorable members of the board, Superintendent Bennett, and district cabinet members. As Dr. Newman mentioned, I have the honor of sharing the 2018 assessment data with you. And we have this set up to give you a few informational items on each program, a quick 30,000-foot view of the data, and then most importantly, the actions and services that we're planning to address student achievement and help our students perform better. So the first thing, the LPAC, this is the new English Language Development Assessment. So it's measuring student progress and performance on the 2012 ELD standards that align with Common Core standards. Significant changes for this assessment. It's a lot more rigorous. Their 2017-18 was the baseline assessment year for the LPAC, so it was the first time it was administered in the state. That means that for our district California dashboard, it's going to be reported as an informational item, so that's what we have for you tonight, just a general overview. New performance level descriptors with the CELT assessment. We had 5 performance levels, and now with the LPAC, it's 4. The domains, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, are a 3 performance level that's similar to the Smarter Balanced assessments. So this is the report for our district. Right now, once again, it's just an informational item report that we have. Our overall score was a 3.1. Our oral language, which combines listening and speaking, was much higher at a 3.4. And the written language composite score, which combines reading and writing, was at a 2.5. So we have that reported on the graph to the left, and then if we look at the individual domain scores, and I wanted to really emphasize that these are reported differently on a 3-point scale. So the highest score that you can get is a score of a 3. And our biggest challenge with our students is reading and writing, and specifically reading. Similar trends with that with the CELT data from prior years. So we've already been focused on targeting our students' reading comprehension and giving teachers and students the support they need for that area. So these are the actions and services, big focus areas that we have to address the proficiency of our English learners. We're in training our 3rd LPAC Academy, which gives teachers a comprehensive understanding of how the assessment is made up, the task requirements that students are required to be proficient on the assessment. We're working in conjunction with the RCOE instructional staff. They're going to be coming out for the 3rd time to work with our designated ELD teachers at the October PD. Our second item, if you look at the pictures on the upper right, those were from last week. We have our instructional support from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. She's an amazing instructional coach that works with our teachers on, they co-plan together, do a model lesson in the classroom, and then do a debrief. And I was able to join them last week and actually yesterday as well. And one of the best collaboration sessions that I've seen in a long time, teachers talking about instructional strategies. A lot of the kids in these classes have significant challenges, so they were able to bounce ideas off each other on how to address those challenges. Another big item for us was our newcomer guidance course that the board approved last spring. So this is for students that are brand new enrollments to the country, and we have a specific period for them to get support adjusting to U.S. schools in general, study skills. And we also have bilingual avid tutors that come in 2 days a week to support the students in their other content areas. So help them perform in their science class, and their history class, and their math class. Ongoing data analysis and program evaluation. Sir, if you could do me a favor and click on the link that says data analysis there. One of our requirements for for Title III program compliance is that we are continually looking at student achievement data and making adjustments in our program based on that data. And I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead, but that was an example of a training that we provided at SSC, looked at the LPAC data, and then identified successes and challenges, and then the teams identified services that they could provide to their students. Our EL leads and admin then took that back to the school site and worked with teachers and their PLCs to once again improve instruction. So moving on to the academic and college and career indicator, this shifts us into the CASP assessments, and it has some highlights here. The CASP assessments for grades 3 through 8 are what comprise the academic indicator for the elementary and middle schools. It's also an indicator in our Goal 1 LCAP for the high school. So it's looking at student performance on the CASP assessments and ELA and math. The Smarter Balance assessment also goes into the college and career readiness indicator. That's used in conjunction with CTE pathway completion, A through G completion, and a whole bunch of different other options for students to demonstrate college and career readiness. And we have a lot of data here. I wanted to give you a brief explanation of how this is calculated and what it looks like. If there's any questions, feel free to raise your hand, throw something at me, slow me down, because it is a lot of info here. So this is calculated on looking at the distance from level 3. So level 3 is the standard MET category, indicates if a student is on track for college and career readiness. And what the state does, they look at every single student's score and calculate the distance of that score either in a positive manner or a negative manner and see how many points away it is. So you can look at the examples here. There, the first student was a positive 6, second one was a negative 13. All those scores are added up, and then you get a school-wide average, a district-wide average, subgroup averages, and then that's how the dashboard is essentially calculated. What we're looking for here in terms of status, we would like our schools to be in the 10 to 45 point positive range. Very high would be 45 points or more. And every year we want to increase that by 7 to 20 points would be the increase. increase significantly would be by 20 or more points. So kind of keep that as a frame of reference as we go through the data. We're very fortunate. We have Mr. Kerry Bobbitt, who did a whole bunch of advanced calculations for us, so we were able to actually work with our admin teams in July to go through this data, and the state's not going to calculate it actually until December. So we went through a full day training with our admin teams to really quickly identify where we're being successful and where we're struggling. So we look at status. There's 2 years we're looking at the 16-17 school year in blue and the 17-18 school year in orange, and then the scale down at the bottom shows the positive points and the negative points. And then we're looking at change. This is really where we focus because it quickly lets us know, did we do better than last year or did we not do better than last year? So the numbers there indicate change from the previous year. At the high schools, you're looking at a cohort of one group of 11th graders in 16-17 compared to a totally different group of 11th graders in 17-18. So they are different cohort groups of students. But you can see, we're gonna highlight Paloma because they had some success in ELA. They had a positive 3-point gain. They also have a high status, so they did very well this year. No way to slice it and dice it. We had struggles for the rest of the ELA department, and we're going to highlight some of the actions and services that we're doing to address those struggles. If we move on to the EL subgroup, the EL subgroup also saw some declines. They're significantly less than the overall. So you can see the district total was a -2 compared to -14. So our EL students lost some ground compared to the previous cohort, but they did better than the overall scores. As we go through the ethnicity, data is very similar to the overall scores. So I was going to kind of just highlight some things that stood out. Our students with our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, these are students with very high needs. They're on free and reduced lunch, or neither parent has graduated high school. Similar to the overall scores for each school. And our students with disabilities, did want to highlight that Paris High School had a positive 10.68 gain, and Pinacati Middle School had a 6-point gain. So reasons to celebrate there. Moving on to math, we saw a little bit better in the math domains. We had positive gains, especially at the middle school level. So at CMI, grades 3 through 8, and at Pinacate Middle School, also grades 7 and 8, positive gains there, along with Paloma Valley High School with a positive 5. Our EL students did really good in math, so this was something to celebrate as well. You can see positive gains of 19 at CMI, 14 at the middle schools, and at 11.47 for the district overall. Ethnicity, once again, a lot of these kind of overlap with the overall scores, so we had successes in the middle school grades, some challenges at the high school level. Same thing with SED. Did want to highlight that Paris High School had success with their students with disabilities. So they had an 18.8 gain along with Pinacate Middle School with a 7-point gain. So moving on, big question here. We had a challenging year. What are we actually doing to address the data? Dr. Newman, one of the first things he did was do a very comprehensive qualitative data study where he went out and talked to every single English and math teacher in the district. He spent a whole day at each school site, really prompting the teachers to get information on what are the strengths of the instructional program, what are the weaknesses, what opportunities for training and professional development, what can we do to work together to improve instruction and to improve student achievement. And then he compiled all that data, brought it back to our department and Ed Services, and that's influencing what we're doing to support our teachers and our staff. We have continued training on professional learning communities. So one of our, specific to our EL program, they want to see ongoing professional development, not just one-stop shop training. So we've done professional learning community training for the last few years at our October, August PDs. We have teams attending solution tree trainings on that as well. And that's helping teachers, once again, analyze student achievement data and focus on best practice instructional strategies. Both ELA and math, we're working with our teachers and curriculum teams to focus on essential standards. Their ELA has been administering the SBAC interim assessment block, so those are many assessments that are aligned to different assessment targets within the program. 100% alignment to the test, so our students are getting used to taking those assessments all throughout the year, not waiting until the spring to actually see the assessments. Co-planning and co-teaching, we have our ELD TOSA and our math TOSA working with teachers. Once again, just yesterday they were out co-planning, co-teaching, focusing on best practice instruction, and significant data analysis for our admin teams, our group content area teams, and the ELA and math SACs, and our, once again, site PLC teams. Items specific to ELA, we are in our first full year of implementation of the state board adopted materials for middle school. We adopted textbooks last year, but we finalized all of the pacing and the assessments. So it's kind of year one for them to take off in that. We are working with Ms. Zero to review textbooks and adopt materials for high school. The high school 11th and 12th grade teams are already piloting the CSU ERWC units, and we're looking at state board adopted textbooks for 9th and 10th grade, starting that pilot in the spring. We've had our intensive reading intervention Read 180 program, A through G approved, so we're getting a lot of support for teachers and students in intensive reading intervention. Items specific to math, once again, we adopted a lot of brand new textbooks for multiple courses, so working again with teachers on pacing and instruction assessments for those courses. Alignment of core and math support classes, so you can see pictures of teachers working together. Once again, a lot of opportunities for collaboration. And then within that textbook adoption, implementation of intervention programs and personalized learning for students that are struggling in the math domains. So I know that was a lot of information in a 10-minute period, but we wanted to give you a highlight of the data, and then once again, the highlight of the actions and services that we're providing to improve. That sums it up, unless there's any questions.
Yeah.
Sure, we can do
Probably
that.
say,
Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely get that. We can definitely get that over to you.
Okay, sure.
I just want to say, where's Mr. TP? Oh, I just want to say thank you, Mr. TP, for preparing this information. I just want to make a comment, and hopefully we can look into that. You mentioned something that is going to help with these professional learning communities, and that is something that we have been doing for the last several years, right? And it's really powerful when you get together and you collaborate, you look at the data, you look at the common assessments, right? And then you see how the students are performing, you identify the areas of improvement, and the teachers determine what is going to be happening next. As always, our commitment is with honesty, integrity, and with the truth. My concern, and I'm going to be very honest here with Dr. Newman, it sounds really good. It sounds great, right? However, it is my understanding for some input that I have been receiving that is not actually happening, right? That there are some subject areas that they do not have the common assessments, that there is not a data analysis. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that because we have been doing this for several years, and the results are still there, right? Last year we talked about improving, and we were told to the board by Mr. Bennett or the representative of Mr. Bennett, we have a plan. This is what we are going to do. We are going to improve, and that is not the case. So I have another experience also related to some collaboration meetings at the district level. And Mr. Bennett was told, oh yes, every month we are meeting, right? And we have this, we are meeting. I received input from teachers that they said that is not the case, right? And one of the teachers said, I'm the representative from this school. I go to the district, and that is not the case. Mr. Bennett assured me, well, that's what I had been told, that every month we are having those meetings. So who do I believe? The teacher is telling me one thing, Mr. Bennett is telling me something else, until I push the issue and I say, okay, can I see the agendas randomly selected? Can you provide the agenda in the minutes for February and May? I think those were the 2 months. And that's when suddenly the light came, and I said, oh no, in that subject area, we met only once during this year, right? So that is something that I'm really, really concerned, and I want cabinet to know, right, that we are being told something, and we want to really make sure, and we are going to be looking into that to see if there are common assessments, because at this point, there is that, how can I say, that element, right, that we are saying, is this really, really happening? Because we are not seeing results, but we are seeing that we are being told that that is happening. So we are looking forward for some elements to conclude that PLCs are really being implemented, that there is data analysis, that the teachers are collaborating, that they are showing that, and that they receive that the support from the district office and the training in order to do the elements and make PLCs a reality, and our students can benefit and get. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
I was wondering if you were waiting for a comment. That's
No,
all.
no,
Or
it's
you just
okay.
want to make a statement? But,
No, because
but
probably this is something new for you. I haven't.
No, it's totally new for
Sure.
me, but at the same time, I want to ensure you that we are. I know my team have been going out to the sites, working directly with teachers and so forth. To give you an example, just the other day, Mr. Tippy and his team was specifically at Paris High School, Pinacati Middle School, working with teachers in the classroom with the coaching model. That's what he was sharing about. So, in regards to moving forward, we have to do the work, is basically what you're saying, which we would expect you to ask that question, that when we talk POCs, we talk about the real work and making sure it happens. So we're making sure that we're getting out on campuses, supporting the work, making sure we are visiting the POCs. I know Julie Zero, our director of curriculum instruction, actually has a system set up to monitor all agendas throughout the district, so we can identify if agendas aren't coming in, try to identify very early if they're not coming in, and then also following up with principals. And so what Mr. Tippy was sharing specifically was a data analysis tool that he did specifically for our EL students, but also every single principal completed that tool as well, just to make sure we're following up. So we're trying to run a tight shift, in particular supporting the work of PLCs and make sure that we are growing the work of PLCs. And so, love to have you, if you want to come and visit sometime, love to have you come and visit and see the work that we're doing, because we want to make sure that we are fulfilling kind of that promise that you're saying, ensuring that PLCs are happening.
Okay, thank you. I'm really happy to hear about that, and I'm looking forward not to hear from staff members from Paris, Heritage, Paloma, that is not really happening.
Yeah.
So I think with what you are sharing, we are trying to trust the job of cabinet, right? But we have that experience, and I was like, this is not right? And I understand it was not Mr. Bennett directly, but he was informed. Oh, he assured me. Do you remember that, right, Mr. Bennett? If I don't remember things correctly, please correct me. He said, no, Jose, it's not like that. It happened like this. But that's what happened, and I just want you to know that our expectation is that doesn't happen again, right? Because that is the right thing to do, and that is our commitment, right? To do what is right and to do what is in the best interest of our students. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to move to our next item, that is 13.1, discipline. August 2018 monthly suspension report. That is an information item. The next item is an action item, 14.1, personnel, certificated personnel action items. Do I have a motion? Trustee Garcia, Trustee Twyman. Please vote. And action item 14.1 has been approved, 5-0. 14.2 is also an action item, personnel, classified personnel action items. Do I have a motion? Trustee Twyman and Trustee Nelson, please vote.
With your vote there, Dr. Rouse, I'd like to introduce our new Director of Purchasing, Joe Lawrence. Joe, could you step up to the mic? And
thank you very much. President, members of the board, superintendent, members of the cabinet, thank you very much for having me up here. My name is Joe Lawrence. For the past 11 years, I've spent working over Springs Charter Schools. 10 of those years I was working in purchasing, and so I'm hoping to bring some of that information and that wealth over here to Paris Union High School District, and also gain some additional experience here. And just looking forward to being part of the team. We have a great staff in the purchasing department, and they've been fantastic and welcoming. And so looking forward to working out with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations and welcome. And action item 14.2 was approved, 5-0. 14.3 is also an action item, personnel, adoption of resolution number 07-1819, week of the school administrator. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson, Trustee Stafford, please vote. And action item 14.3 has been approved, 5-0. 14.4 is also an action item, personnel. The California School Employees Association, in its chapter 469, submits their initial proposal to negotiate with the district for the 18-19 school year. Do I have a motion? Trustee Garcia, Trustee Nelson, please vote. Sorry, it's a public hearing. Okay. Before we vote, we are going to hold a public hearing to receive comments regarding the initial proposal to negotiate from the California School Employees Association in its chapter 469 for the 18-19 school year at 7:18 p.m. Do we have any public input, comments related to this action item? No? Okay. Okay. So we are closing this public hearing at 7:19 p.m. After the public hearing, if you can please vote. We're lucky, it's almost at the end. 14.4 has been approved, 5-0. 14.5 is also an action item, personnel. The district submits its initial proposal to negotiate with the Classified School Employees Association in its chapter 469 for the 18-19 school year. Trustee Nelson and Trustee Stafford. Now we are, yes, thank you, sir. No, I'm glad that you remember because I didn't see it. Yeah. Okay. We are opening this meeting for public input, a public hearing at 7:20 p.m. related to this item 14.5. public hearing at 7:21 p.m. And now please vote. And action item 14.5 has been approved, 5-0. 14.6 is also an action item, personnel, approval of the tentative agreement between the district and the California School Employee Association and its chapter Perris Valley 469 regarding the 17-18 reopener negotiations. Trustee Nellison and Trustee Twyman. There is not an open hearing. Please vote. Action item 14.6 has been approved, 5-0. 14.7 is also an action item, personnel, approval of a memorandum of understanding between the district and the California School Employees Association and its chapter Perris Valley 469 regarding the reclassification of position for Sofia Rubio. Do I have a motion? Okay, Trustee Garcia and Trustee Nellison. And, please vote. And action item 14.7 has been approved, 5-0. 14. I'm sorry. 4 in favor and 1 abstention. The next item is 14.8, is action item also, curriculum, professional services agreement with Oliver Petty to provide a student mentoring academy to increase student achievement, reduce suspensions, increase participation, and help build leadership skills, funded through Title I in the amount of $18,000, not the general fund. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nellison? Trustee Twyman? Please vote. And action item 14.8 has been approved, 5-0. 14.9 is also an action item, curriculum, adoption of resolution number 04-1819, public hearing and resolution for pupil textbook and instructional materials compliance regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for fiscal year 18-19. No. Trustee Nellison and Trustee Stafford. Yes, the Williams Act, exactly, yeah. Please vote. And 14.9 has been approved, 5-0. 14.10 is also an action item, building and grounds, approval of the construction management services agreement between the district and NEF Construction Incorporated for the high school number 4 project, funded through various facilities funds in the amount of $11,165,220 based on the estimated cost of construction, not the general fund. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nellison? Trustee Garcia? Please vote. We have a presentation.
Yeah, just an explanation of.
Explanation of
this
the.
is
We'll
getting out
give
of
you an
hand.
explanation and a presentation.
And a
How's that?
presentation, yes.
So, this goes back quite a long ways, and so asked Hector, along with the help of Fred, to put together just a very brief presentation. But just going back to last summer when we had our study session, when we talked about various ways to fund the projects that you all identified as the priority facilities improvement projects. High school number 4, which a little bit later on we won't have to call high school number 4 any longer, was of course one of those priority improvement projects. And so doing his due diligence, Hector has been working to make sure that we're ready to stick a shovel in the ground on this project with what last July in your study session ultimately became Measure W. And so Hector has just a brief presentation so that we're very transparent in terms of how we're planning and to make sure we can get this school opened in the quickest manner possible.
Good evening, Board President Arau, board members, Superintendent Bennett, and Cabinet. So it's exciting to be up here talking about High School 4. I mean, we're taking another step to actually making it reality. So just want to talk a little bit about the planning timeline, kind of the background of what we've been through. As a district facilities person, I've been eating, breathing, and living this high school for the last bunch of years. But so 2009, we purchased land for this high school. November 2012, Paris voters, PUHSD voters approved Measure T, which provided some of the funding for this campus. November 2013, we went into planning and design for the campus with Baker & Wicke Architects. Finished those plans in October of 15, submitted them to the Division of State Architect for their review. It came out of review in October 2016, about a year of review time. January 2017, we submitted plans to the state. The state, their school facilities program was supposed to fund the other half of this campus along with Measure T. The state hasn't come through on their promise. So our application is sitting at the state on an unfunded list, acknowledged unfunded list. And July 2018, a few months ago, Measure W is placed on the ballot for November. And that's an exciting time for us. I mean, that means that we have the possibility of moving forward with the campus. So our construction plan, we want to move into pre-construction services. After the November election, we want to be ready to go. You know, we've made a commitment on some timelines to the voters. That's why I have bullet points, because I'll start talking and I'll never stop. This project will be built using it's called a CM multi-prime delivery method, meaning that we have a construction manager on the project, which is the contract that you're looking at tonight for NEF construction. Pre-construction services are part of that contract. What that's going to do is allow NEF to work with staff to make sure that we're organizing the project logistically, putting bid packages together. So after the election in November, we're ready to go and hit the streets and bid this project out. There's a 4% fee, a CM fee on the project from NEF. Of that point, half of 1% is a pre-construction fee for the project. So we've already paid $362,000 throughout the planning. NEF has been involved with the planning throughout the time that we planned the project and got it into DSA. So we've already paid them $362,000 for these services. So our strategy. Obtaining a construction manager now allows for continuous follow-up to significant services already performed on the project. Some of that coordination with utilities, with some of the off-site items that we need to make sure this campus is built has already been happening, and we need to continue that by the time, so we're ready for bid time. Like I said, strong efforts of coordination with local utility companies and that adjacent developer, which we have an MOU for. They're on the hook to build some of the off-site utilities, the sewer lines, some of the water lines, and the gas lines. So the construction manager in pre-construction, they're going to assist with the pre-qualification process for contractors. We want to make sure we have the right contractors on board, that they meet all our qualifications, that they're good contractors. We want to create interest among bidders to stimulate competition. I'll remember next time. Our campus, you know, entire high school doesn't come along very often, so there's a big buzz in the contractor community about our campus. I think we're going to have some really good numbers on bid date. That's why it's important that we're ready, have all our I's dotted and our T's crossed when it comes time to bid, because we're going to have a lot of interest and we're going to have a lot of hopefully good numbers on bid date. We're going to develop bid packages that maximize value, create clear scopes of work, and take full advantage of that optimal bid time. The summer's over in the contractor world. The fall and the winter is when everything kind of slows down a little bit. So us bidding in November, December time period is going to ensure that we're at a good time to get some good numbers. The total cost of the pre-construction services, like I said, is a half of 1% of the project estimate, which is about $1.1 million, minus the $362,000 that we've already paid NEF. So here's a timeline of what we're looking at now to get into actual construction of the campus. So in September through November, we're going to be pre-qualifying contractors, building bid packages. In November, we'll know the election results. When successful, November through December, we're going to bid the project to the prospective contractors and trades. Once we do that, we're going to award contracts in January, break ground in February of 2019, And we're targeting an August 2021 opening of the campus for students. So that gives us about 32 months to get the work done. And that's the exciting part, is actually talking about breaking ground and getting this project built. So here's an infographic. I mean, it's our pathway to what we've done. We start with purchasing the land in 2009, move through voters approving Measure T, planning and design with the architect, all the way through submitting the application, pre-qualification process for bidders in September through November of this year. Election results, very important. Award of bids, and breaking ground in February of next year. And ultimately, having the campus completed in August of 2021. So, with that, if you have any questions,
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you go back through 3 slides? Really quickly. One more, please. Okay. At the bottom, it says total cost of $1,116,522. The amount we're approving is 10 times that much. What exactly are we? I see. General construction costs and general condition fees of $5,582,610 in addition to CM fees at 4%, estimated to be $5,582,610 for a total of $11 million.
Yeah.
So we're approving $11 million, but
we talked about the pre-construction services here in the presentation. So what we're approving today is the CM.
So we're just doing the construction management agreement.
Yeah, the construction management agreement, of which the pre-construction services are part of.
Okay, so we're really only approving the $1.1 million, or are we approving the 11 point?
Yeah, the whole construction management contract. So the current estimate on the high school is $160 million. So that's an estimated number. Once we have bid results back, we'll know what the actual number is, and we can start narrowing that down a little bit. So,
okay.
NEF's proposal is 4% of the total construction cost, the hard cost.
Okay. I also have one more. If the bond does not pass in November, how much of that are we out of pocket? The full $11 million?
No.
What all are we on the hook for that we will not get back if we follow through right now but don't pass the bond in November?
Yeah, so we've already paid $362,000, and that was through the planning and the coordination with the architect. From now to November, the NEF will be coordinating and getting bid packages built. So the work involved with getting all that ready to bid, getting the project ready to bid. So of that 1.1 will just be the amount that is expended, the effort that's expended up until the bidding period. If we're not successful, the $11 million does not get paid to NEF. The project is pretty much
okay. That was my big question, was how much we'd be out if we did not pass the bond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just whatever effort they expend up until the bidding process.
So if I do you mind if I jump in? So the way both architect and construction manager contracts work is there's milestones and timelines within the contract. And so we authorize, and you probably saw the contracts, they're very thick. We authorize each of the next steps. So the first step would be to get through pre-construction services. So if for some reason Measure W were not successful, we would only be on the hook for the pre-construction services done to date, which at most would be the difference in the 1.1 and the $362,000. Which what that does is it's really a return on investment for the strategies that Hector has talked about in terms of utilizing that time to make sure that we get the best contractors in place to provide or to bid on the projects, and that we're not bidding in a time when a lot of contractors would not be bidding over the holidays and so forth. And it's going to get us a better bid package back is one benefit. But another benefit is, of course, being able to start. We're 5 months ahead of the game instead of having to wait for the election, then wait for the holidays. All the while, construction costs potentially and more than likely are increasing and so forth.
Okay, Hector, summarizing and following up what Mr. Nellison was saying, the pre-construction is $1.1 million.
Yes.
However, we are authorizing tonight $11 million.
Yes,
to give to NEF Construction Company.
Yeah.
Throughout the project.
Throughout the project.
So, the only thing that they are going to do, what they are going to do is manage that. They are not going to be doing any construction per se, right? Because I'm seeing that we're going to get bids and all.
Yeah,
all of that.
correct.
So they are going to be coordinating the different service providers.
Yes, they're the construction manager.
And they are going to charge $10 million to do that throughout. Well, 11
Yeah.
total with, okay, so
Yes.
that's what it is?
Yeah.
And just to clarify, because I know that that sounds like a big number, and it is a big number. And so what a construction manager does, you're right, they manage the project. They're responsible for all of the contractors and all of the trades. But there's also general conditions that are part of that. And so that's everything you see on a construction site, from the dumpsters to the construction fences to the, not the inspector,
Job site superintendent.
There we go, the job site superintendent. So it's not just, sit in the construction trailer and supervise. You heard Hector mention earlier hard costs and soft costs. Those are the differences. So it's really two parts.
Yeah, so if you break it down, so there's the CM fee, which is what they make for managing the project, and then the GCs, which are the general conditions, which is Candace mentions are the restroom, the temporary fencing, the water truck, the on-site superintendent. Those guys are actually out there managing the project. So it's broken down in kind of two pots, and that equals the $11 million.
Another bond.
Yes,
So, okay, after November, I'm just wondering, is there another one?
Not another one after November, no.
the bond on the ballot for November, Measure W, is for the construction of this campus.
Hector, I have a question. Between that 382,000, 62,000, I can't see from here. But how much more do we plan on spending between now and election time?
Well, they're working on bid packages. They're working on coordination, all the different things that go into actually bidding the project, and working with utilities, which all that stuff has to be settled before we actually go into construction, where the water lines are going to be, the services EMWD is going to provide. So those are all part of the pre-construction services that we receive from NEF. So I can't give you a number, but like I said, the pre-construction services are 1.1 through bid and award. So if we go halfway through that, then roughly it'd be half of that. So
Half of the difference.
half of the difference. Yes.
How vital is it for us to vote on this tonight? Because the questions my colleagues are asking should have been detailed in this. And I think this would make us feel a lot more comfortable if we had those numbers broken down, or at least a general idea, right? Because we're talking very broad right now. We're talking about fences, the supervisors, stuff like that. But I think seeing 1 million right here and 11 million here, what's really in between? Is not trying to be rude, but is there like a hidden agenda that we don't know about? Is there something that the construction company is doing that we all don't know about in general? I think it's safe to say we want to know. And I think the community, especially if we're asking for a bond, they want to know. So are we spending money we don't have? What's going on?
So, yeah, so if I could take a stab at that. So I apologize if you don't feel like all of the information was in there. What we were, generally when we approve facilities contracts, they're just an item, and what we were trying to do was be very transparent, in part because, with Measure W on the ballot, there's a lot of talk in the community on various sides, people wanting to know the timeline, how are we going to get the school built by August of 2021? To the other end of the spectrum, Paris Union High School District doesn't even intend to ever build that school, and clearly that's not the case. And so really what we're doing tonight is a pretty big milestone in the plan that we talked about in that study session that we mentioned in June or July of 2017 when we first began talking about this. And so in the details of the contract, which are reviewed both by Hector, Fred, and myself, along with legal counsel, because they are very large contracts, spells out each of those milestones I was mentioning earlier. So to answer your specific question, if we were to go all the way through pre-construction services, which means building the big bid packages, putting the bids out on the street, and opening the bids, and then awarding the project, that's the $700 and some thousand difference there. But again, as I mentioned before, the return on that falls in line with the strategy. In terms of construction costs, which will continue, they have been continuing to increase. And so then let's say Measure W passes, we put the bids on the street, we open the bids, we award the bids. That all comes back to the board in terms of awarding the bids, so that's the next milestone as well. And then it's the construction process, a couple of years, which you saw in the timeline there. And as they meet certain milestones, just like for the architects, then we pay out. So at the completion of the project, it's the $11 million. So one of two things could happen, and I think we all hope one of them does not happen. But if the bond were not to pass, then they don't proceed any farther. And then there's also another, correct. We stop at that dollar amount. But then there's another piece that happens in there too. And again, once the bids are opened, those then come back to the board for approval. We issue notices to proceed to those contracts, and then that triggers payments as well. So there is more time in terms of for the board to take certain actions. But answering the specific question in terms of how vital is it that we vote on this tonight, it's extremely critical. It's part of the plan that we've laid out since that initial study session in terms of making sure we get this school open for August of 2021. I'm sure most of us can imagine high school, especially a high school opening in October. Doesn't do us a whole lot of good. It's got to be by August.
I think I understand now. I just think that the difference that they highlighted of $10 million just caught our attention.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, reassess. Okay.
So, Ms. Raines, just one last question. So we are talking that from now to election day, when we know the results of the bond, that hopefully it passes, but you mentioned a scenario that it might happen. We are going to be spending $862,000, right? The $362 that we already spent, plus $500,000. Who is going to absorb that if that scenario happens?
Oh, so that comes out of facilities funds. So we would pay for, so that's not the general fund.
Okay.
That's an important distinction.
Measure T?
We could use Measure T. We would, usually we try to use our most restricted dollars first. And so yes, this is Measure T funds. We would have the availability for some developer fees, that sort of thing.
Okay. Thank you.
But not the general fund.
Tony,
You got a question, Tony?
Maybe you already answered this, but my question basically is how much money are you going to spend in a month and a half past that $362,000? The construction company must have some idea of what they're going to achieve between now and election time.
Yeah, so the pre-construction services are, like I said, go all the way through when we actually award the bid. So from now to November, a little bit over $800,000 won't be expended. So that's pretty much halfway through the awarding of bids. So we'd probably be about halfway through. I mean, it's hard to put a number to it. We know what we're going to do up until that point to get bid packages prepared and get contractors, information they're going to need to provide their bid. So I don't have the number for you, but it's about halfway. I would imagine it'd be about halfway.
That's about $750,000. This is roughly. So about half of that, you're talking about $375,000, $400,000.
Roughly.
That's what I'm pressing you for. Is
Sure.
A dollar amount.
Yeah. I'd say roughly it's going to be about $300,000 to $400,000.
Okay, so hopefully things turn out the way we want. But
yeah, and I'm out there working with these guys. I mean, we're meeting with contractors. We're putting all these bid packages together, controlling costs, making sure that whatever we're build is actually stuff that they've actually done. And so that's one thing that I'm really passionate about, is making sure that any dollar that gets spent in this district, it's facilities dollars, it's not general fund dollars, but any dollar spent in this district through facilities is actually earned by these contractors. If they're doing the work, we pay them. If they're not doing the work, then we adjust accordingly.
All right, just had one comment. I know this is next time we actually vote on it, but this essentially needs to be done no matter what. Whether if we're gonna build this high school, we're gonna have to go through a contract management company, whether it's this company or not, or a different company. But we have to go forward with the the idea that we're going to pass the bond, because otherwise, why are we doing it in the first place? We have to have faith that that the bond will get passed so we can get this high school built, especially if we want to get it open by August of 2021. And so I think from what I just said, I think you guys understand where I stand. I'm just letting you know, I believe that since this is going to happen, whether we do it now or later, I would rather get it done now so we can get the construction started as soon as possible. So.
Well, yes, I've been with you on a new high school, Hector, so I know the whole process.
Yeah.
Just wanted to know that you're protecting our interest, that we're not spending money that isn't in a positive direction for services that, make sure.
Yeah, that's one
it's
thing
going
I
the right
stress.
place.
These contractors, when they come to our district, they earn their money with us. We're not buying $500 toilet seats, trust me. I mean, we're making sure that they're producing what they promise they're going to produce at that contract. That the deliverables are being delivered on time and in budget.
I mean, and that they don't unnecessarily speed up and add cost to something.
No.
That
I understand.
So it's all within the proper timing.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are going to move forward and vote. Please vote. And action item 14.10 has been approved, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I won't go far.
1411 is also an action item, building and grounds, approval of site lease and facilities lease agreements with NEF Construction Incorporated for the Paris High School completion phase project. The cost of this item is estimated at $299,277, funded through various facilities funds, not the general fund. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson? Trustee Stafford? Any questions or comments?
Yeah, and so Hector will just, it's a little bit different strategy, but nonetheless still the same strategy that we've been talking about. At the last board meeting, we approved the selection of the lease-back contractor, and so Hector will talk to you about our strategy here.
Yeah, so this is the Paris High School completion phase. Anyone who's been to the Paris High School campus knows that we started off with a campus, 1959 started construction. A lot of buildings, really chopped up, really hard to supervise, and we've actually transformed it into a nice open campus, collegiate feel. I mean, very nice campus. If you're there Saturday for our grand opening in phase 2, you're really going to be impressed with what's out there now. So on the Paris High School completion project, which at one time was known as the Paris High School transformation project, so we have our milestones. So August 2013, phase 1A, the 8,000 building. If you've been out to the campus, the 2-story buildings along Ruby, 6, 7s, and 8,000. So that end classroom, the 8,000 building, August 2013. August 2014, the 7,000 building, that middle 10 classroom building. January 2016, phase 2A, the 4,000 building, the 2-story that's out there with ceramics and the art classroom, medical classroom is from January 2016. Also the satellite kitchen, the boys and girls locker room. August 2018, phase 2B opened. That's the 5,000s, the new kitchen, culinary arts, auto shop, the engineering classrooms, ROTC, which those guys use the heck out of that facility. I'm happy to see that they're really using it. And the agriculture, the PACE building, the Paris Agricultural Center for Excellence opened. And like I said, we have our grand opening this Saturday for phase 2. December 2017 to 2019, we started the design and we're currently in the planning and development of plans for the completion phase, which is the next phase, which will finish off the Paris High School campus. So in August of last month, you approved the selection of NEF Construction as our lease-back contractor. So lease-back is the delivery method we're going to be using to deliver this project. It's a little bit different than CM Multi-Prime. CM Multi-Prime is NEF is the construction manager, so they manage the project. Lease-back is where we lease the site to NEF. They build a project. They assume their risk for the construction schedule, construction budget, and they give us a guaranteed maximum price of what the project is going to cost. So we decided that this was a better approach for this campus, this project, just because of the complexities, the logistics, the staging, the timeline for when things get done on an open campus with students present. So here we are today, September, presenting our lease-leaseback agreement to you, to all for hopefully for approval. This next slide shows kind of one of the reasons we chose to go with the lease-leaseback project on lease-leaseback delivery method on this project. The area in red is our completion phase. As you can see, it's a large area of the campus. You know, in that we have our 2-story 1,000 building on one side of the campus. We have our phase 2, our 6, 7s, and 8,000 on the other side of the campus. So there's some crossover students and staff have to do to be able to circulate on the campus. It's a complex project. There's going to be a lot of staging. There's going to be a lot of coordination with the campus, with the trades, the contractors to be able to accomplish this. Similar to the high school 4 presentation I just did a minute ago, our strategy is to bring the contractor in now for pre-construction. Like I said, this picture clearly shows the need for that. There's a lot of planning, a lot of coordination, a lot of strategy that goes into being able to build this project successfully there on the campus. So through the lease-leaseback construction delivery method, the pre-construction services through the plan development phase, which is what we're in now, will help identify issues that can cause schedule delays later on in the project. You know, we want to be able to know where these issues are going to pop up, so the pre-construction services are really needed and are going to help to identify those issues, potential issues. And it's also going to help a smooth transition with a campus that's been involved with construction projects over, think about this, the past decade we've been on construction over at Paris High School. I've had parents come to me and say, Mr. Gonzalez, my oldest son started here, you were under construction, my youngest son is getting ready to graduate, and you're still under construction. And I tell them, well, come back in a few years with the grandkids and it'll be done. Lease-leaseback contract, they're going to use information gathered through the pre-construction phase to develop a project cost reflected through a GMP, guaranteed maximum price. So what we're approving today is the lease-leaseback documents, which include the pre-construction services. As the contractor develops the project, develops the strategy, logistics plan, and all that, they're going to be able to give us what's called a guaranteed maximum price, which we will bring to you for approval. We don't know what this project is going to cost you. We have a construction estimate, but as we move through pre-construction services and we're able to identify all these issues, all these sticking points, these things that we have to do logistically, we're going to be able to work with contractors, being that it's a lease-leaseback delivery method, work with contractors and bring them on board so they can give us cost opinions to give us a really accurate price for the project. And that's the advantage of having a guaranteed maximum price, where we're not on bid day hoping for the best. We'll already have a price that you as a board will have approved before we start construction. So our lease-leaseback contractor is going to help develop strategies for phasing, construction logistics. Big portion of this project is interim housing. You know, we have a library, we have an admin building that we're going to be moving. They're going to have to go into interim housing. Through this process, we're going to identify where that's at, how we get that going, how that's going to be used. And like I said, it's a complicated project on an open and functioning campus. Here's our tentative project schedule. This project is still in design. It hasn't been submitted to DSA yet. So October 2018 to January 2019, planning and design, we're going to finish plans, design will be completed. We'll have a logistics plan, a phasing plan, and a construction schedule that will be developed. In February, we're going to be submitting the plans to the Division of State Architect. We're thinking 6 to 8 months to get DSA approval. Some projects, they move really fast. Some projects are a little slower. I anticipate this one will probably be more towards the 8 months just because of the complexities on the campus, some path of travel, because they want to see what we're doing with students that are on the campus then while we're working. So it'll take us about 2 months to bid the project and award. 18 to 24 months construction period. And so we're looking somewhere in 2021 delivering the project and opening it up for students. That's our tentative project schedule now. It's a little explanation of what we're doing with the lease-leaseback project and the lease-leaseback delivery method. And if you have any questions. Sure. Yes. Yeah, so the new high school will actually start construction sooner because the plans are approved or out of DSA. We have those plans ready to go. As soon as we're successful in November, we're ready to hit the ground running and bid it. Paris High School is a little bit behind, but we're not building a whole high school, so we're going to start construction 6 to 8 months after the high school, after the new high school in Menifee. But we're looking at probably completing it close to around the same time. But both projects will be going at the same time. They're going to start a little bit different, but they'll be going at the same time. The voters? Well, these two projects are part of our priority project list that we have identified as part of our Measure W. So all this information has been put out to the voters. This project, the Paris High School project, the new high school project in Menifee, which hopefully will have a name later on tonight, and the CMI project. So those three projects are our priority projects that we identified as part of Measure W. We put that information out to the voters.
Any other question? No? Thank you, Hector.
Thank you.
Okay, so please vote. And action item 14.1 has been approved, 5-0. 14.12 is also an action item, business, adoption of resolution number 08-1819, authorization to apply for a grant with the California Energy Commission School Bus Replacement Program. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson, Trustee Garcia. Any comments?
Sure, be glad to. So this is exciting. We can't hold our breath because we don't know, but this is just authorization as required by the grant for a resolution by the Board of Trustees to allow us to apply for the grant that actually closes tomorrow. So we're going to work quickly in the morning. But we're applying for 5 electric school buses, and so if we receive the grant, it'll be completely free to us, and we would get $60,000 per each bus awarded for the infrastructure in terms of charging them. So keep your fingers crossed. We would, yeah, and they would be responsible. We would actually, they would build that infrastructure on our site in order to do that.
So a grant, we don't pay the money.
Nope.
Nope. Free money.
Free money.
Okay.
Candace, where do we intend to put the charging station for
You
the
know, we
buses?
would have to work with him at Unified on that. Let's assume we're successful. And so we would have to analyze that. We'd need to work with Hector as well, because that infrastructure, you know, my first thought would be to put it on our site, but I don't know that would work. Because that way it, you know, stays with us. But if it is free money and free buses, then we would just have to look into that in terms of where we would charge them.
Okay, well, that kind of leads to the second. The buses will be, so you don't know where they'll be housed within our district?
Well, they'd have to
and
be housed near or at the charging
Yeah,
facility.
So can't answer that question.
So, and we applied for this a couple of years back and obviously didn't receive it, but, so we'll do the applications, get all that submitted tomorrow, obviously keep you informed, and if we're awarded, then we'll begin looking into those, the answers to those questions and what would be, best for our district.
And do we plan on phasing out our natural gas buses?
Not the natural gas, but this grant's actually intended to replace diesel buses.
Diesel buses, okay. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? No? Okay, so please vote. Oh, yes. Yeah, free money. Action item 14.12 has been approved, 5-0. 14.13 is also an action item, business, approval of J13A, request for allowance of attendance because of emergency conditions. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson, Trustee Stafford. Just one, is another one? Same thing. Okay. Please vote. Action item 14.13 has been approved, 5-0. 14.14 is also an action item, business, high school number 4 naming advisory committee recommendations and conduction of a public hearing. Trustee Nelson, Trustee Stafford. So we open. Okay. I am opening a public hearing during this Perros Union High School District Board meeting. to seek additional comments or input from the public, from the community regarding the naming of high school number 4 at 8:00 p.m. Okay, if we don't have any, do you have any input? Sure.
I know the rules. I did have a question because somebody said earlier, and they thanked you for coming out and letting them know about the new name of high school number 4. Oh, okay. Okay. So, and just one of the things to keep in mind is that I know there was a lot of back and forth about the recommendations on the name. The people in the committee shared it with me, and some came to me concerned because they felt like there was a lot of pressure to lean a certain way. And so I just went, I know that the decision's already been made, but that's what the understanding is the
I assure you the
decisions.
decision has not been made yet.
Okay,
Guarantee you. I was on the committee, and I guarantee you the decision has not been made yet.
okay,
They haven't even been made aware of the 3 choices yet.
okay.
So the
So-
decision has not been made yet.
Then again, it was kind of pushed that this is where we're going, and if we want this to pass, then this is what we have to do. And so just keep in mind, though, again, it's that whole slippery slope that we look at of where it is, and, who are we serving? So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. Okay. At this time, I'm closing the public hearing to get input from community members regarding the name of high school number 4 at 8:03 p.m. We have a presentation by Mr. Fred. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I can assure you the name of your next child has not been decided. It's what it feels like. First of all, I want to thank you for the privilege of working with your community on this item. This is obviously a very big thing to name a high school. And just to go back a little bit, in June at your board meeting, you gave direction to staff and to me to develop a naming advisory committee that had broad-based representation, and that is in the folder that I gave you. The composition of the committee is on the left-hand side. And I have to tell you, I mean, it's like most things I do, the students in this group were incredible, just incredible. I mean, it's why we do this, and it's always good to have them involved. So before I start talking, there are several members of the committee here tonight that I would like to introduce. Marizel Karin from Paloma Valley was here for her report. I know that she had to leave. Ulysses is gone, unfortunately, a Paris High School student, but again, just fantastic. Monica Campos was a Heritage High School student. Unfortunately, she's not here tonight. Dr. Freeman from the Menifee Board, Ron Ulibarri from the Menifee Board were on the committee. Kim Freeberg from Paloma Valley High School is here, and she was on the committee. Eric Cronky, one of your former board members, was also on the committee. Joshua Nagar, representing the city of Paris. Mr. Nellison from our board. Helen Steemock from CSEA. Helen is here tonight. Bill Zimmerman, who ironically in the middle of this process was named mayor of Menifee, but he was serving on this committee as a representative from the Menifee Valley Historical Association. He was a great resource for some historical references. We had our discussions. And Mr. Bennett was on the committee as well, and thank you for making the time to join us. The committee met on 3 different occasions, and one of the things that you said in your direction in June was that while we have a board policy that defines how facilities should be named, you wanted to narrow that focus a little bit and have the recommendations focus primarily on historical or geographical references. The discussion was that naming of facilities after people either alive or deceased should be reserved for special facilities or buildings, on the campus. We have several facilities throughout the district where you have done that. So with that, the other thing that you wanted was as much community outreach as we could to get the community involved. Well, we did that, and there were 305 submissions that were given to the district with names of those. I believe 46 were taken off the list because they kind of fell out of the parameters that we had directed with regard to limiting it to history and geography as far as names. So with that, the committee had some very spirited discussion about the names, and again, it was great. Student perspectives were different than adult perspectives. Both were healthy. There was, I thought, good discussion back and forth between, all of the members of the committee. But one thing became obvious, at least in the 305 suggestions, and I don't think it had anything to do with potential unification or bond, but there was a strong bias to have Menifee in the name. So that became something that was discussed a great deal. Along with that, the idea of continuing some kind of historical perspective led to one of the names. So what really ended up happening was, I wish I could say to you that there was a clear-cut winner, recommendation. There isn't. The 3 names, Menifee High School, Menifee Hills High School, and Liberty High School, were all pretty close in the final voting amongst the committee members. The Menifee references were, it's probably good that I gave you the tally sheet that Candace was nice enough to compile of all of the rationale that the community members gave when they submitted their recommendations, kind of identify why they wanted Menifee included, in the name. But Liberty High School, one of the 3 finalists, there was a lot of good discussion about that. There was a lot of thought that the name was similar to the basis for heritage. There were a lot of similarities there. So there was very, very healthy discussion amongst all 3. I don't feel in any way there was any clear-cut winner, if you will. Mr. Nellison, Mr. Bennett, any additional comments you want to provide regarding, how the committee approached this?
Like Dr. Good said, we had 3 that really stood out. I really wish we could have had one, like based on a geographical location that would have just made the most sense. But nothing really seemed to throw itself at us in that regard. So I think we had a pretty close vote for those 3. And like I told the group that we were in, I would be okay with any of those 3 high school names being used for the new high school. There was talk about the fact that it's not technically in the city of Menifee. It's actually unincorporated Riverside County that it's actually in, but there's already been talks possibly that Menifee will be taking that land eventually. So even if it isn't now, it will be in the city of Menifee at some point, even before it's completed possibly. So that was kind of taken off the table as a possible reason not to include Menifee. But like I said, all three of those high school names I would be completely fine with for this new high school.
And I just want to add, Fred put together a great process that we used, had a lot of input from different groups. The team there that met got a chance to discuss, and then different ways of voting. First time we voted, just everybody got 10 stickers or something. I can't remember. 10 stickers.
Right.
And you voted on the ones and it narrowed it down. Then we voted again, and they were weighted stickers this time. So one was worth 10, 7, 4, something like that. And we voted that way, and that's what this final vote came down to that way. So I thought the process that was put together was very fair and open for a lot of discussion.
And again, I wish, like Mr. Nellison said, I wish that one name had jumped out to all of us, but it didn't. But I do go back that in the comments that were provided along with the submissions, there was strong sentiment to have Menifee in the name. And again, I go back, Mrs. McDonald's not here tonight, but if you recall in June, she very rightfully so kind of chastised me, be sure to have representation on the committee from all parts. And that ended up being one of the most healthy things about the discussion, was that we did have, representation from throughout the district.
Students from Paris High School and community members from City of Paris. So yeah, I think we got representation from the entire community that we service.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for explaining the process. I just got one question, Fred. I'm just curious. We have three names, Menifee High School, and there are 15 comments of why it would be Menifee High School. There is Menifee Hills, and there are 14 or 13, I believe. And for Liberty, the last one, there is only one. Could you expand a little bit on the rationale? I'm assuming that might be the name with some historical background, right, or something? Because we have 44 votes for that, but only one comment, because it's what our country is founded on or something.
Well, to me, you've kind of gone down a track that to me is very logical, and yet to me what we tried to do is we tried to take a process, let's let the community throw out all the ideas they can. Some of those we didn't include in the process because they fell outside of your discussion. So it would be easy to think it's a voting contest, if you will, but I don't think we saw it that way as the committee started to discuss, let's get it down to 6, in one meeting. And then let's get it down to some other number. And the Liberty name was actually one that a couple of the students, a couple of the adult members of the committee really started to like. They thought it was a nice third alternative to two that had, Menifee in it. So we really didn't view it as a voting contest, but that's true, Dr. Arau. The 50 some odd comments represent a lot of people that submitted names that, or support of the name Menifee who were community members.
I would like to hear from, I see 2 representatives that are on the list. I would like to hear their opinion if that's possible. Mr. President, is that okay?
If they're willing to speak.
Are you ladies willing to speak?
Oh, I bet they're willing to speak.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And I was telling Vicki, I've already made my comments during the times that we met. Kim Freeberg, PSEA second vice president and teacher at Paloma Valley High School. So I did make some comments when we met in the discussions. And as you look at the list of the 12 people there, I felt as if the city of Menifee was overly represented and Paris Union High School District was grossly underrepresented. And so as I look at those three names, I'll tell you, my vote was for Liberty High School. And I am the one who said, you know what, we have a heritage on one side. It'd be nice to end the other side of the district with Liberty. And there was great conversation about that. We did have some really good conversations. One of the students, I believe, as we were discussing where that came from, and I was really pleased that this happened because I missed one of those meetings. I do have to say, I don't know that I ever met Joshua, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, from the city of Paris. So I don't know if he was there the one meeting that I missed. I don't know if he showed up at all. So again, I felt like it was heavily on the Menifee side, and I feel like two of those names kind of came out of, you know, the Menifee side of the representatives there. There was some, in my estimation, I feel like the passing of the bond and unification is very confusing to the people in Menifee. And I believe that they feel that if we get a new high school, that it's Menifee's high school, and that is, you know, just the next step in unification. When you look at the big picture, maybe it is. What I said was, I think we are confusing the voters in the city of Menifee if we name a high school with the name Menifee in it. As Mr. Nellison said, you know, right now, the high school will not even be built in the city of Menifee. On top of that, I can't remember where I was going with that, but it won't even, I told Mr. Bennett, it belongs to PUHSD right now. It makes me feel really, for lack of an academic term, yucky, that we want to name a high school after the city of Menifee with the board members of the Menifee Union School District after us to unify with Menifee in it. I feel like Liberty is just a neutral school name. And like I said, I think with heritage on the one side, that it caps off the other side of the district with Liberty. So that's about all.
Thank you very much.
Helen Steinmeck, CSEA President. I also have a lot of similar ideas and feelings that Kim expressed. I personally prefer the name Liberty as well. And for many of the same reasons, but also not because I think that it was highly representative from people from Menifee, but I think the people that live in the city of Menifee don't realize the things that we have to do in the future, that there is another high school that needs to be built in Menifee, which can become the Menifee High School. This one is unincorporated Riverside County. So Liberty makes sense. We have Freedom Elementary, we have Heritage High School. Liberty just makes the most sense for now. I also understand that a lot of people who will be voting in the November election want to see Menifee, but I don't think they understand quite as much as we do, having worked through this process. And so I think if Menifee residents understood that this is not the only high school being built, eventually there needs to be another high school that will be centered further into Menifee, they might be more apt to say, oh, that makes more sense to build that, to name that school Menifee. So just, those are my personal reflections, but I mean, all the names were great. There were lots of others that we considered, but you know, again, that's my perception. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nemak. Okay, so what will be the process? Okay. So we have the motions now. What do you suggest, the process? Do we do it individually or make a proposal? Because we might have different opinions. What do you
They're
think?
also hoping for a name tonight. I know a lot of people are.
Yes. Yeah.
There are 3 choices and 5 of us, so we may not have a quorum tonight. That is a possibility.
Okay. Okay. Anybody would like to make a stay?
I'll let you guys make a motion for any name right now, and then we can talk about it.
So I can say that name.
Yep.
All right.
One of the 3.
I make a motion for the third one, Liberty High School. 44 votes by committee members, and hopefully us.
So Are we all making a motion, or are we just?
I'll second the motion. Okay. So now we are going to vote for, or we can discuss first. Yes, let's discuss first, and then we can vote on Liberty. We discuss this public hearing.
Well, I'd like to comment. I live in Menifee, and I agree with the top vote getter, Menifee High School. I was here before Menifee became a city. It's now a city. This is part of the identity, so I believe in Menifee High School would be my choice. But as we vote, that's how it goes.
Well, I'm gonna listen to our constituents who also vote for us, and I think it's fair. Like they said, it's unincorporated Riverside County, and I think logically, we need to stick to something a little bit neutral until we get to that point. Because I'm sure if they want down the road, they could change the name, right? They could if they want, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, my opinion was also for the third one, Liberty. That was the reason why I asked about only one comment, because it seems to me that could be the name that I could vote for. Yeah, and it represents, I think, that is one of the cornerstones of our society, of what this country represents, and that's a good, like, I could consider. Yeah. Okay. Any other comment, Ms. Twyman?
Liberty is probably the most not inside of what do you call it? It wouldn't upset most people. It doesn't. The older high school has been here is Paris. But the other high school is Palma, Heritage. They don't have like a particular name in the area, so I come from Menifee too, but I would be okay with Liberty.
And I also wanted to reiterate Ms. Steinmach's point, is the fact that there is going to need to be a fifth high school in our district, third in Menifee Elementary's borders. That has to be built within in the near future because of population growth. Because even when this fourth high school gets up, we're still going to be looking at capacity because of all the incoming population. So there will be other opportunities for high schools to be named Menifee or Menifee Valley or Menifee Hills or whatever it happens to be with the name Menifee in it. Because I know, like in Murrieta, you have Vista Murrieta, Murrieta Mesa. People don't call it Vista Murrieta; they just call it Vista Mesa. Valley. Yeah, Murrieta is left off completely whenever people are talking about the high school because they're all named Murrieta something. So I also didn't want that to be a recurring theme here in Menifee. If we have this being Menifee Hills and that being Menifee Valley, and yeah, we're going to fall into the same pattern. So like I said, I'm okay with all three of them, but I do have a couple of preferences. So.
Okay, so let's call this the Liberty motion. And we already have the first motion and the second. So we are going to vote on this. I'm sorry? It's going to be an oral vote. So should I mention the name of the trustee? And they say yes. Okay.
If you don't want to vote Liberty, you're going to have to vote no. If you want anything else, make sure you vote no. So don't say, "Oh, I can be okay with Liberty, but I really want this." If you don't, if you want something else, you need to vote no.
You said no, and then if this one doesn't pass, then we make a motion for another one. Exactly. Okay, so we have a motion for the Liberty motion, and we are going to vote verbally, orally. Trustee Stauffer.
No.
Trustee Twyman. Trustee Nelson.
Yes.
Trustee Garcia.
Yes. I'm sorry. He's asking you if you want to vote yes or no for Liberty High School.
Yes. Okay, so yes, Trustee Twyman.
Yes.
Yes, and yes. So, trustee, this motion to name high school number 4 Liberty High School has been approved for 4 in favor and 1 again, opposed. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I close the public hearing. Yeah, we was for discussion. Okay, so Liberty High School. Okay. Perfect. Now, so in this case here, we don't vote? Okay, we already voted, okay. On 3 different things. Okay, we go to the next item.
Also, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who was involved in the process, especially Dr. Good for putting all that together. It was a lot of work, and I appreciate everything you did for it.
Thank you to all the members, great job, thank you.
Thank you to everybody, and please don't be upset. Please.
Okay, the next item is an information item, 15.1, and it's a general functions, district reorganization, unification.
This item is brought forward after our joint board meeting that we had with Menifee in July. We had said that we'd have our board get back together and discuss where they feel like how we should proceed or not proceed with talks about unification. Sorry about that. So that's the reason that this agenda's item is on here, so it would be a board discussion item.
Okay, so we are going to proceed and have a public discussion here on this public hearing on any comments and input. What is the position of this Board of Education, so we can give direction to the Paris Union High School District Cabinet, specifically our superintendent, on how to proceed.
We had the previous meeting over at the Menifee School Board, and some of the information we asked for hasn't been provided.
That's the direction we're asking it. Do we need to?
So you're saying that wasn't our board meeting, so we actually need to give you direction here.
Right.
Okay. So like I said at their board meeting, I think we need to find out what our numbers are going to be, so we can see if we're even close to even talking about it, because we need to fulfill 9 criteria. They need to fulfill 9 criteria. After unification would happen anyways, we need to see if we're even close, because some we may be very close or will have already fulfilled. Some we may never see the light of day on them, depending on our numbers. We really need to see the numbers on those first, I think.
Go ahead.
So these past 2 weeks, I've been inundated with phone calls, emails, and I got to speak to people. I got to speak to other board members in other districts. And the information that I got, it was actually shocking because I didn't understand everything. And hearing how this is going to impact people, I don't think this is the wisest decision for our district at all. From what I understand, people's livelihood, their finances are going to change dramatically. So we're funded, pretty well off. You guys make a good, decent wage. If we unify, your salaries go down from what I understand because of their budgets. And then they have to cater to the other teachers and renegotiate. And so all the money that would be poured into the school doesn't necessarily get poured into school from what I understand. Now, if I'm wrong, I need to be corrected. I need this information. So in the meantime, right now, I just don't think it's appropriate. And I agree with Mr. Nelson right now that we need to know if we all qualify. Why are we going to do something that we don't qualify for? We wouldn't go to, purchase a car if we didn't qualify for a loan or know what we qualify for at least, or a home. So this is big, and we're impacting thousands of children's lives. Now, are they going to get the best resources, the best education? This is something we need to really, really talk about, rather than just have a brief, oh, hey, yeah, I'm voting for it. No, I'm not. I just, it doesn't settle right within me.
Well, we're not talking about voting for unification or anything like that. What the process was, they asked if we wanted to work simultaneously with Menifee to look at the criteria to determine if it was even possible to think about unification. Right, we had that information, we shared that night at the joint board meeting.
Okay. I just want to say comment regarding the concerns after the meeting with Menifee. First of all, I completely agree, and I asked that question, how are we calling this unification? And we review the spirit of the law in the 1930s, that it was to reduce the number of school districts, right? First, we have like 4,000, close to 4,000 school districts in 5 to 10 years, because through that process, it was reduced to close, a little bit more than 1,000. Those are the ones that we have here. My concerns are, first of all, that we are not meeting the requirements, the legal requirements that we have to meet. I was concerned because the board members from Menifee, they insisted, 2 board members asked the representative from RCOE if we could waive those requirements. And we know what the requirements that we are not meeting is. And one of the most important ones is related to segregation, right? So I don't agree, I don't think that we are going to go back in history for how many years, 50, 60 years? That was the cornerstone and one of the most important elements of the civil rights movement, right? So the fact, and I can understand the position of why can we waive those, if we agree that we can not meet all of them, but I can understand the position there, but not here. So I don't think any of us would be willing to go against history, we can say, because the bottom line is, and we know it, that is going to become disproportional in terms of demographics, right? When we were talking about, and I asked directly, what is one of the main reasons why we want to do this? That basically is give away. Paris Union High School District is going to give away 2 high schools, right? And one of the answers was, and as a matter of fact, one of the board members asked our superintendent, Mr. Bennett. And Mr. Bennett answered, I don't remember exactly what he answered, and I took the liberty and I apologized, Mr. Bennett. I said, I don't think you answered that question. The question is, why would Paris Union High School District give away two high schools, right? And then Mr. Bennett answered, oh, because it's what the community wants, right? So we're talking about 33%, roughly, right, of the community members. That is what it represents, Menifee. My question is, yeah, the Menifee Elementary, you're right. Okay, perfect. The Menifee Elementary District constituents, right? About 33% of our constituents. That's what we have been told that the constituents want, but we really don't know if that is the case. And let me tell you this, because I started wondering about this. As you know, one of the elements in order to proceed with a request is to get the votes for 25% of the constituents. So technically, Menifee doesn't need the approval of Paris Junior High School. And Menifee knows that, right? So if the constituents wants that, the constituents of Menifee Elementary, why not get the 25% of the votes and move forward? Why did we have to pay 9 or 10 years ago thousands of dollars for that study to give away high school? And why do we want to get involved also saying, yes, we are going to support a unification, right, that we call, that we know that is not unification, and spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to a study that is going to take away 2 high schools from us, right? So that is that's one of the concerns. The other rationale of why unification was about identity, right? So if we go into that element, what is the identity that we are looking at, right? So technically, in talking very upfront, what is going to be the constituents, the demographics of the constituents of Menifee Unified, and what is going to be the demographics of Paris Union. So it's going to be white, and African Americans and Hispanics here on Paris Union. So those are the main concerns in terms of students. That is, in terms of the elements that we need to meet. The other one is something that I mentioned that, and I did some research in terms of our staff members. Ms. Rains, can we say that roughly Paris Union High School is in the top 3 of the 22 or 23 districts from the county of Riverside in terms of pay? In terms of, yes, total compensation.
Total compensation, sorry.
Menifee
Total
is in the bottom 3, correct?
I don't know their data, I know our data. I can,
Yeah, I think
I have-
based on what
let me-
yeah, it is in the bottom 3. So let's assume that happens. All the teachers from Paloma Valley, technically, right? Paloma Valley is going to go there. They're not going to go and want to work for a lot less money. So what is going to happen? Okay, we are going to, because they are our employees, they work for Paris Union High School District. It is my understanding, and I can verify this with Mr. Scorpanish, and you know more than me, based on the results of my research, is then we are going to have to lay off the teachers who are at the bottom of the seniority list, right? So you are going to go to Menifee, and if you don't want to work for Menifee Unified School District, then you are going to be laid off, right? And that is going to be an MOU between the unions and all of that they are going to accept that. So we are going to be affecting how many teachers there, that they are going to decrease their salary a significant amount from being in the top 3 to go to the lowest 3. There is one more element, our cabinet and district staff. We are going to have 33% less of the funds of ADA, right? Would that be reasonable to say that? Are we going to reduce the salary of Mr. Bennett by 33% and each of the cabinet members, right? Because we need to get that money. If you know, proportionally speaking, every high school is paying for their salary, right? If we are losing that funding, who is going to pay for that? One thing that I'm not going to support is that money comes from our students, right? And that is what is going to happen if we want to continue to have those salaries. Even though they have to go down, right? Because now we have 10,670 something students, right? If we lose 33%, we are going to have a Paris Union High School with 6,500 students, right? We cannot support the number of the staff members here. So we are going to be affecting the teachers. And there is one more thing that I'm concerned. Mr. Zimmerman, I believe, he was trustee of Mountain San Jacinto, now is the current mayor? Yes. Okay. He said that something really important was the curricular alignment between elementary, middle school, and high school. And I said, that is an excellent point. It's a valid point. But now, let's use that argument. How come we haven't thought about that? What about the students who are coming here to Paris Union from Paris Elementary, from Romulan, from Nuevo? Where is that curriculum alignment? If that is going to benefit, then a real unification could be to put together 5 different school districts, right, where it's going to be alignment, where we are going to have, instead of 5 different superintendents, there's going to be only 1 superintendent, 1 assistant superintendent of each area. We are going to be saving probably, $4 million there. That is 4%. Well, for Paris Union High School, that will be 4%. More than 4% increase, right? Yeah, because exactly, right? So that is the true unification. If we really want to talk about unification, that's what it is, and that is not going to affect easily. We could meet all the requirements that they are by law. So taking in consideration all those elements, how it's going to be affecting our district financially, our students also, I would say my proposal is to stay away from that process. If that is really what Menifee Elementary wants to do, go ahead and do it. Pay all the tens of thousands of dollars that the study implies, because that's what you want to do, right? Get the 25% of the vote of your constituents. And that is something that I have been thinking. Because one of the board members in Menifee mentioned, we have been trying to do this since 2009, or he mentioned something like that, right? And I thought, so why you haven't done it? The law is so clear. If everybody of the members of your constituents want it, get that 25%. It's so easy, right? And I consider my colleagues for board members of Menifee really smart people, very smart people. So it's not that they are missing that, right? So why is that? Just wondering. That might be the case that it's not everybody. The ones constituents from Menifee, I don't know, and that is not, I don't have anything to do with that. But the evidence is suggesting that that might not be the case, right? I'm just thinking that if that would be the case, that would have done. That could have been done long time ago. Get the 25%, move forward, and they pay. So my proposal and what I'm asking the trustees of Paris Union High School District is that we cannot participate, we cannot spend the money of our students in giving away to high schools. That is my. No, that is because we're not taking action, right? We are. It's a proposal.
But I think Ms. Twyman has one.
Ms. Twyman also has something. Yeah.
One of the things I have a million things, but one of them was originally it was done for students. I mean, that's why it came up. Because the communication between Menifee and Paloma was really bad. I know because it was a paperwork unification. I know because my husband used to get all the information on math at Menifee and trade it to Paloma where he worked.
Menifee Valley Middle School? Is that what you're talking about, Menifee Valley Middle School?
He worked at.
I know, but he got the information from Menifee Valley Middle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to clear up my head, so.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
So the reason originally was for students to get that information. There really isn't, I don't know about right now, but there wasn't the communication that would happen in a regular school district. Also, Paris is about the only school in California that is a union district. There is, everyone else is a unified district. Find one. There isn't one.
Chaffee High School School District is the biggest high school district, and it's not that far up the road. It's over in Ontario, Montclair, Rancho Cucamonga area, so.
And it's my understanding that Whittier Union High School District, there is one Whittier Union High School District in Whittier.
Down Orange County,
In LA County.
Anaheim Union, Huntington Beach Union High School District.
You are correct that there are not a lot of high school districts, but we are not the only one.
I just don't have any hope that it's ever going to occur. After I'm dead, maybe. But I mean, it's going to take years.
And that would make sense. I would definitely support something like that, right? Paying less administrators, having everything that if it's going to benefit the students. But we are looking at all these negative elements that are there.
I think you are, and I don't think we need to. I mean,
I think we do need to look at the negative and the positive elements. I think we need to look at everything.
Well,
So,
yeah, like I said, I'll bring paperwork.
With all due respect, we do need to look at everything. Look at how many lives we're already talking about impacting. Classified, certificated, administration, and the children.
I don't want to argue about it. I don't think I'm going to convince you.
well, I listen to you and I fully understand where you're coming from, but I'm not necessarily saying that we contribute to doing the study, but I would like for us to get some numbers on our side to see what the numbers will be. That way, we could even see if that's even remotely a possibility. But because if it's not even a possibility, it's not even something we need to
even talk about.
talk about or spend a lot of our time on, because until the demographics change, I don't see it happening anyways. But I would like to know if we're anywhere close, at least on our side. We can't force them to get numbers on their side, but I believe that they're looking to get numbers as well. But I would like to see numbers in terms of students that would be shifted to a different school district, what kind of demographics we're looking at. What else? Yeah, it all has to fall into the 9 criteria. But the main ones I'm thinking about are the demographics, because the demographics of the 2 sections of Paris Union High School District are so different that I don't see it falling into alignment with the criteria that were put in by the state. So,
And also, I really don't know. And that was the agreement last time, that we were going to do kind of an estimated study, right? And we talk about even doing it at the local level without an expert, just to have an idea. Okay, 3,000 Hispanics. Oh, okay. But how can we address the financial element? Because I can understand, let's assume that hypothetically speaking, we meet the requirement in terms of demographics. Just assume. How can we look into the financial aspect? Because obviously we know elementary and middle schools, they get less money per ADA. And that's why elementary teachers are in the bottom 3%. They are going to get the funding from the high school. They're not going to be able to pay the elementary teachers the same salary, right, that we are doing, right? And they cannot say elementary teachers and middle school teachers are going to make this salary, and high school teachers that want from Paloma because we get more ADA. I don't think CTA would, or you guys, the union is going to agree to something like that. And it wouldn't be fair, right? Teachers, we are teachers, independently of the level, right? If we are elementary. So that is not going to happen, right? So how can we, probably you can help me. I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
Well, I think I understand the question, so stop me before I get too far if I'm not. I think the question is, how can we begin looking at the financials? And that's a very broad question. As I believe in the meeting a couple of months ago, I explained there's really 2 parts to this. So there's how would each district's general fund look like after unification or reorganization, and then there is the debt and the facilities. And when I say the debt, I'm talking about like our certificates of participation, our CFDs, as well as the taxpayer debt on the general obligation bonds. And so could we look at what the demographics would look like? Yes, we can pull that data. But looking at the financials to the level that I believe the board would want to see in order to make a decision, we could only look at very surface level with staff. We could create some scenarios, because you're right, under the local control funding formula, there's 4 different allocations of money, K3 all the way up through the 9-12. And so you receive that money based on the proportion or precisely the exact number of students you have, that fall in those categories. So certainly we could create some scenarios of what the general funds, would look like. But the unknowns that we would have, actually this would be more, I believe, on the Menifee Union side than for us. They would have more unknowns because, what would their salary schedule be? And so that would be more difficult for them to calculate than for us. We have a salary schedule. We would know what our student enrollment would look like in the remaining district. From there, just like we do every year, we would calculate the staffing allocations. But as you said, we may be left with more teachers, more classified staff, more administrators, more cabinet members, all of that than we need. And in some of those cases, we would, not may. And so then we would have to do, those calculations because otherwise we would be in the negative in terms of our budget. So that's on the general fund side. And so we could certainly do, I guess what I'm trying to explain is we could do some very surface level, but to get precise numbers would be difficult without doing a more in-depth study, and more than likely with a consultant or some outside expert guiding both districts. And we moved to the facilities side. And we absolutely would have to have attorneys and other folks involved in that, helping both districts look at the debt, look at the general obligation bond taxes, so that we make sure that the taxes are divided appropriately, because we wouldn't want all of this to, let's just say everything went smoothly and everyone's happy. We wouldn't want homeowners opening up their tax bills and those got divided wrong. And so that involves work with the assessor, and there's a whole lot of people that are involved in that in terms of even beyond a study. So I hope I understood your question and answered it. Okay. So it can be done. We're just, as Mr. Bennett said, we need to know what the board is looking for.
So the first one, the one that you will be able to help us with is what Mr. Nelson was talking about in terms of the demographics.
Yeah, not me specifically, but we have Carrie.
And then the second question is going to be, why do we want to invest? Why do we want to pay money to give away to high schools? So I don't know. I need to digest my brain or something that digest that you are going to pay so we can give you to see if it's possible for me to give away to high schools, and we are going to be facing all those challenges, right? And because I have not heard anything about how this would benefit the Parish Union High School District students, right? I just heard about the vertical alignment from the instructional perspective, but that is going to happen only to 33% of our students. The other 67% of our students, they are going to stay the same. Yeah. Okay. So, but summarizing, we need the information, a big idea in terms of demographics, so to see if we would like to talk about it. Is that your proposal also, Mr. Nelson? Actually, that was your proposal.
Well,
Yeah, I just want to second it.
I would like to see at least information on our side to see what the demographics would look like after we lost the students from the Menifee Elementary side, just to see if, because their demographics we don't have all the numbers for, but we could see and get a good idea of what this side would need. And if this side doesn't qualify, it doesn't matter if that side qualifies, because both sides have to qualify for the criteria. So.
I had a quick question. So how many
Come on, Mike.
I can't get up. Something just occurred to me too. How many board members would be left? Two. So then what would happen, and I've done my research on this, there would also be redistricting going on. And Paris L then can come in and take Paris Union.
Because Heritage being in part of Parish Union, they couldn't do that because that sits in Roma Land School District.
They could take Pinacati and Paris.
We are going to be left with Heritage.
And then Roma Land would take Heritage. No, it could conceivably could happen. I've done the research on it. CTA did the research for us also, and they said, yes, that absolutely could happen. So, but it was just occurring to me, we would be left with the two-person board. And so then redistricting would have to occur, because we're gonna eliminate how many other positions?
I think this is a big
Yeah.
decision, and we need to look at every single aspect, every single element.
And
and
it's
get the
not just
information.
about, and it sounds like we're just talking about ourselves and money, but I think we have to also look at what services the kids are gonna lose. Because our curriculum belongs to us, doesn't belong to them. All the things that Parish Union High School District has belongs to Parish Union High School District, and doesn't necessarily go to Menifee.
And they don't have anything for high school at this
They
time.
don't even have curriculum for the elementary. They have no textbooks. They just did away with Avid. They can do it themselves, and they did away with AR. They can do it themselves. They just got rid of Avid. It's gonna be at their next, yeah, the teachers are screaming about it. So,
Thank you,
yeah.
Ms. Viola. Okay, do you have the, you feel we have the direction? Okay. Yeah.
Anybody that says, please, this is
Yeah.
the time to do it.
I,
If you disagree with them getting more information, by all means, this is the time to please do it.
If the information can be produced at no cost to us in-house, no cost,
no
not a
cost, because
penny.
we should not be investing any.
No.
Yeah, we come
Yeah.
back to the same thing, invest money to see if we can give away to us.
Yeah, it's, it hasn't been done or met on for, what, 11 years ago now, and nothing more is being brought to the table. I will be no part of segregation at all. How can we name a high school Liberty and then segregate? I just, no.
Excellent.
So, you know, if the numbers bear out differently and they really want to do something and have the data to prove that, then that's up to them. But at this point, we're not there. I'm not there, anyway.
Thank you, sir.
I'll agree with whatever the majority of the board says. If 3 people say they don't want to spend any money, by all means, let's not spend it.
Well, just one last thing. I want to thank the teachers for speaking out and giving us the information and letting us hear their voices. We've heard a lot of this information and we've gone to the meeting, so we were aware of these things. But it's important to everybody. It's not just about the money. It's about the students. And that's who we're here to serve. So we have to think about them first.
And I think looking in more depth into what is going to benefit the students, that doesn't seem to be the case, because we were talking about that hypothetical instructional alignment, but it seems that is not really the case, right? So that is the most important thing. And second is the financial element, that even though it's not the priority, but it's a reality. Yeah,
Let me also throw in one more thing, and just because there's a unified district does not mean that you're gonna have perfect vertical alignment between all the schools. I work at a district that's unified, and quite often the high schools don't talk to the middle schools, and middle schools don't talk to elementary. Where's the vertical alignment in that? I'm not saying that was what would happen, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen perfectly because it's a unified high school, unified district.
That is an excellent point, Mr. Nelson, and the ones who have worked and are working in unified districts, we can see that, right? That we struggle to have the vertical alignment with the middle schools, just high schools with the middle schools. And that is the objective, that is the goal, right? But mostly with the new information that we have, that couldn't be in the best interest of the students. Okay. So do you feel, Mr. Bennett, that you have the direction, the information that you need? Okay, perfect. So let's, so that was information item 15.1. 15.2 is an information item, curriculum, supplemental instructional materials, textbooks for functional academics 1 and 2, functional careers 1 and 2, functional English 1 and 2, and functional math 1 and 2. 15.3, information item also related to the business department, revolving cash report for the month of August 2018. 15.4, information item, board policies, philosophy, goals, and objectives, as well as comprehensive plans, series 000. Yes, 15.5, also information items, board policies, community relations, series 1000. 15.6, information item, board policies regarding administration, series 2000. 15.7, information item, board policies, board bylaws, series 9000. 16.1 is an action item, a closed session if necessary.
Not necessary, Dr. Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. 17.1 is reconvene in public session, not applicable. Action item 18.1 is discipline, reinstatement of students' discipline matters. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson? Trustee Stafford? Please vote. Action item 18.1 has been approved, 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Can I say? Yeah, right? It's red, it's yellow. Yeah, 1 abstention. 18.2 is an action item, discipline, board review of discipline matters. Do I have a motion? Trustee Twyman, Trustee Nelson. Please vote. Action item 18.2 has been approved, 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Information item 19.1, other items by the superintendent.
Nothing else this evening, Dr. Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Last action item 20.1 to adjourn regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees for today, September 19, 2018. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson and Trustee Garcia. Trustee Garcia, please vote. Action item 20.1 has been approved 5-0, and this meeting is adjourned at 9:01 p.m.